Hygiene Board of California meeting. My name is Dr. Carmen Jones, and I'm the president of the board. Today is Saturday, March 23rd, and we're commencing the meeting at 9:01 a.m. I would ask us all to please turn all cell phones to silent to decrease interruptions. For those participating remotely, please log on to the WebEx website location provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided with the meeting materials. The preferred audio connection is via telephone conference and not the microphone and speakers on your computer. The phone number and access code are provided as part of your connection to the meeting. The meeting is also being webcast at the DCA link provided in the agenda. There is no interaction through webcasting and is only for viewing purposes. This is an official business meeting of the Dental Hygiene Board of California. Once the meeting commences, we will proceed through the items as listed on the agenda. However, the president has discretion to take items out of order if warranted. We have worked in scheduled breaks at 10:30 for a 15-minute break, 12 to 1 for lunch, and at 2 o'clock for another 15-minute break, and prior to closed session, 10 minutes if needed for release time. There will also be short breaks in between this morning's committee meetings to provide staff for setup. The board is conducting committee meetings this morning for recommendations on action items to the full board this afternoon. There is also a closed session for this meeting as indicated on the agenda. The public will be excused for closed session and only board members and staff will participate. The board welcomes public comments on any items on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comment prior to the board acting on any agenda item. However, the board asks that the public comments pertain to the current agenda item only as it's being discussed during the meeting. Public comment is not intended to initiate discussion on the topic or topics not related to the agenda item, but an opportunity for the public to express their opinion for board's consideration. Questions asked during public comment may or may not be answered at the board's discretion, especially if the question pertains to an item not on the agenda where the board may not discuss it. The board does provide an opportunity for the public to comment on anything that is not on the meeting agenda, which is normally agenda item 2. I would now like to ask the DCA moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during the WebEx meeting.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the moderator of the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on and members of the public will indicate they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase comment in the question box, which is typically in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Please limit your comments to the current agenda item, as the board has provided an opportunity for the public to comment on items not on the agenda, which is agenda item 2. I will then call on the individual and give them permission to unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. With 15 seconds remaining, I will announce that this amount of time remains for the comment. At the conclusion of 2 minutes, the individual's microphone will be muted and we will move on to the next member of the public who has requested to comment. To conserve board meeting time, we ask speakers to remain on topic, and if the public comment agrees with the previous comment, the board requests the commenter simply state, "I support what has already been stated." Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to request to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator, members of the board, or board staff, or initiate a discussion, as such inquiries submitted using this feature will not be answered. While you are free to express criticism or your point of view, for the public members participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making comments to the board. I will provide a brief reminder of this process at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when the board meeting commences, I would like to remind WebEx participants to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder. We can now commence the meeting, and I return control of the meeting back to the board president.
Thank you. I'd now like to turn it over to EEO Anthony Lum for an announcement.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. Just some logistics for everybody that's mandatory for any meetings like this. If we do have to evacuate the building, there's the way that you came in through the main entrance, that's one exit. And also if you go out the room this way and make a right, there's also an exit at the end of the hallway. So in case we do need to evacuate, those are your two exit points. The second one is, I think, more important than the exit points, and that's where the restrooms are located. As you came in through the front doors, just go straight back to the end of that entryway, make a left, and both restrooms are on the left-hand side there. The last thing that we had a strategic planning session yesterday, and we experienced a little bit because we don't have microphones today. I just request that any individual who comes up to speak, so that way people on WebEx can hear, that individuals elevate their voice a little bit. So thank you very much, and I return the meeting to the president.
Thank you. I would like to now call the meeting to order and ask Board Secretary Nalini Lali Agarwal to please call the roll.
This is Nalini Lali Agarwal, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Jones.
Here.
Sonia Pat-Hansen.
Present.
Sherman King.
Present.
Michael Long.
Present.
Austin Mike Matthews.
Present.
Xavier Canola.
Present.
Nalini Lali Agarwal. Present. The quorum has been established. Because we do not have a full complement of board members, a simple majority of yes votes are required for any action.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 2, public comment for items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except whether to decide to place the matter on the agenda for a future meeting. Are there any in-person public comments?
This is not the first time that this issue has come before the board, but it is coming before you formally. The California Dental Hygienists Association requests that additional items be added to the dental hygiene license renewal survey and that a response be delivered to CDHA not on or before the next board meeting. The purpose of asking additional questions would be to determine if and how licenses are being used in order to obtain a full and accurate assessment of the dental hygiene community workforce. And I have that in writing along with the questions. To whom would I give this?
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you, Madam President. I've opened up the Q&A feature. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. Madam President, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 3, enforcement presentation update from the Attorney General's annual report on accusations prosecuted for Department of Consumer Affairs client agencies, business and professions code section 312.2, January 1st, 2024.
Good morning.
I ask that Mr. Carl.
Yes. Yes.
Senior Assistant Attorney General to provide the AG's report.
Thank you very much. My name is Carl Sani. I am the Senior Assistant Attorney General with the Office of Attorney General. I am in charge of a group of about 100 attorneys and paralegals called the licensing section, and we represent about 30 agencies, both inside and outside the Department of Consumer Affairs. Typically, we appear in the Office of Administrative Hearings, but also in Superior Court and in the Courts of Appeal. Let's change the slide here. Advance the slide. One more there. Okay, and to the next slide. Thank you. Incidentally, the PowerPoint slides that I will be reviewing are contained in your agenda materials. I believe the PowerPoint begins at about page 15, and the report that I will be summarizing is found on about page 29 of your PDF materials for this agenda item. So today I'm going to first provide some background on the Attorney General's report for this past fiscal year of 22 to 23. And then I will talk about how the data that I will be covering has been collected. Then third, I will summarize the data for all Department of Consumer Affairs agencies to put the Dental Hygiene Board's data in context. And then fourth, I will focus on our time on the Dental Hygiene Board's own data. I will say that the Dental Hygiene Board has a sophisticated and robust enforcement program. Over the years, I have handled several of your cases myself, and I can tell you that our staff enjoys working with the Dental Hygiene Board on its cases. Some of them have been high profile and of great interest, and so it's with pleasure that I find myself here again to talk a little bit about the work that we've done this past year. So let's advance the slide. So the origin of this report goes back to 2015 when SB 467 was passed with the goal of improving processing times on consumer complaints. This came from the Consumer Protection Enforcement Initiative that had been produced a few years earlier with the goal of reducing the enforcement time from about 36 months to 18 months. That's a big undertaking. And the report that we're covering is intended to provide indications on how well we are doing that job. It only concerns accusations, which are disciplinary complaints. It does not report on statement of issue cases for example, for new licensees or citations or any appellate work. The second report was prepared in 2017 to 2018 and published on January 1st, 2019, which was the first time the data reported used a methodology that both licensing section and the health quality enforcement section, our sister section, both agreed to use. And the ultimate goal is to show a trend of generally improving time frames. Next slide, please. So the way we manage this data is through what we call our case management system. It's the product name is ProLaw. And what ProLaw does is it allows us to put in various time milestones on each case, which is electronically recorded in our system, and allows us to put down, for example, the date when a case is referred to the Attorney General's office, the date when it is filed. The file date is when it's actually signed by the executive officer, the date of the hearing, the date of when the hearing is submitted to an administrative law judge, and the date of resolution. These are just some of actual many milestones and metrics that we collect for our reporting purposes. We have about 200 users, both in health quality enforcement and licensing, and we have developed a fair amount of sophisticated ways of analyzing the data. Let's go to the next slide. So what this shows is that looking at the entire Department of Consumer Affairs, about 59% of our work was involved in accusations. And this past year, it reduced to about 57%, and that's been roughly consistent for several years. The number of referrals that we have received from the Department of Consumer Affairs increased from 2021-22 from 2,261 to 2,551 cases. I'll talk a little bit about some of these data changes in these intervals as we proceed. Only about 5 or 6% are rejected. They're usually rejected for reasons that, a variety of reasons. It can include that licensees have passed away. It could be that further information has come to the agency's attention, which believes that prosecution of an accusation is not necessary, and they communicate that information to us, and we then reject it. This shows 11% of our cases require further investigation, so that in order for us to proceed to file an accusation, we may need additional evidence of the conduct at issue in order to prosecute the case. It shows that in total for the Department of Consumer Affairs, we adjudicated 2,300 cases roughly each year for the past 2 years. Next slide, please. Now we're looking at data specific to the Dental Hygiene Board, and this shows that in fiscal year 21-22, there were 16 accusation matters referred to our office, and then this past year, 4 accusation matters were referred to our office. And you're probably thinking, what happened? Well, I can tell you that if you go through this report, you will see similar variations in the various metrics between 2021, 22, and 22-23. If you were to look at the very first page of our full report, which again begins on about page 29 or 30, you'll see the one footnote that we have in this report, and it says that, I'll just read it, this report's information is provided against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic in fiscal years 19-20, 21-22, or 2021, and 21-22. And so we have seen throughout the Department of Consumer Affairs a significant impact of COVID on our enforcement cases. The good news now is that that is normalizing, and the information that we're getting presently from the Department of Consumer Affairs indicates that this year will be a better year, but it's not atypical of other agencies within the department. Going to the next slide, please. This is always a pleasing slide to cover because this shows that the information that is being referred to us when we get accusations never requires any additional investigation. So this is frankly a compliment to your enforcement staff that they know exactly the information that we need in order to prosecute cases, and we never have to ask for further information in the past 2 years. That's not frankly common among our agencies, so compliment to your staff. Next slide, please. And this shows that the accusations filed, so this is different from what has been referred to our office. This shows that a referral can come in during one reporting period, but actually the accusations filed in another reporting period. And so this shows that the accusations filed in 21-22 were 14, and we saw 6 filed this past year. But that, again, does not, I don't think is any cause for any concern as agencies are rebounding from the pandemic. We've had client agencies, I'm not speaking specifically as the Dental Hygiene Board, whose enforcement staff were adversely affected. We have also had issues with just getting sometimes enforcement information from witnesses and so on that have been impacted by COVID. So there's nothing of concern in those numbers, in my opinion. Go to the next slide, please. This shows that no accusations were withdrawn. And if there had been, that's usually not anything to be concerned about. For the reasons I mentioned, you can have a person pass away after an accusation is filed or other evidence coming to our attention. But here, there are none. Accusation matters adjudicated. This is where I think you may interpret the data, if you like, to show that there has been a significant increase in adjudications. And again, that is a consequence of us pulling out of the pandemic and getting more available time before the Office of Administrative Hearings. So it's getting easier to adjudicate cases. And so that's a very positive indication and sort of consistent with us coming out of the pandemic. Next slide, please. Now this slide shows how long does it take from the time we receive a referral to the time an accusation is filed. And so this means that the starting point is when we get a transmittal file from a client, and then we need to prepare the accusation. After we prepare the accusation, we need to send it to the client for it to be filed and signed. Our goal internally is usually to prepare an accusation within 90 days and then give a client agency perhaps another 30 days to actually file it, to review it, and so on. So these numbers for the past 2 years are, frankly, excellent. They show that this period, which could be up to 120 days, back in 2021, 22, it was 91 days, and now it's even been shortened to 60 days. So that shows a very efficient operation and a collaboration between the Attorney General's office and the enforcement staff. And again, with no further investigations, there's nothing to report. And again, that's a compliment to your staff. Next slide, please. This shows the time period from the moment when an accusation is filed that is signed by the agency to the time when there is a settlement. And that process usually means that we file an accusation, we then serve the accusation on the licensee within usually 5 days, typically. And then the licensee has an opportunity to file a notice of defense, which is an expression of their intent to contest the accusation. And then after we have done that, we usually will meet with the licensee to see if the matter can be resolved. And if it can, this documentation is prepared and it is signed and submitted. And for the past 2 years, 135 days to 171 days are both very good numbers that I think reflect well on the agency. Default times are the time when we file an accusation, we serve the accusation, but the licensee fails to provide us a notice of defense. And if they fail to provide us with a notice of defense indicating they're contesting the accusation, then we will then process a default, which will be submitted to the agency for consideration. And that shows a processing time of about 63 days, which again is excellent. Next slide. This further breaks down the process of how a case goes from being filed to being considered at a hearing. So the file date shows 61 days from the date the accusation was signed by the agency to the date when the hearing is requested. That contemplates that during that 61 days, we will have received a notice of defense from the licensee. We will have spoken to the licensee. Perhaps we cannot settle the case at that time. And we then agree with the licensee on a date when that case can be heard before the Office of Administrative Hearings. That period here was 61 days 2 years ago to 79 days this past fiscal year. I will just represent to you that those are, again, excellent numbers. The item below it is hearing date received to hearing commenced. This means that if we have not been able to resolve the case, we then have to request that the Office of Administrative Hearings hear the case, and they will then give us a date for the hearing to start. And for this past year, that was 96 days from the time when both parties agreed to request a hearing date to the time when the hearing commenced. And that is, that I would say is actually a compliment to the Office of Administrative Hearings, because it shows that they have been able to get a case on calendar and scheduled to be heard within a little over 3 months, which is excellent. Cases that are more complicated that require, let's say, 4 or 5 or more days of hearing time, that date will change, and it will typically take longer to get a hearing date from the Office of Administrative Hearings. So this shows that the cases that were being presented are cases that we hopefully can adjudicate and try in just usually a few days. Next slide. So this is sort of the conclusions. What can you draw from all of this? Well, one of the important things I want to emphasize is while you have in your materials our full Attorney General's report for all of the Department of Consumer Affairs, it is statistically improper to try to compare agencies against each other. Agencies have different rules, they have different laws, they have different evidentiary situations, and so you really cannot compare two agencies. The respondents in these cases, which are the licensees, are always entitled to due process. And so we cannot overcome their right to be fully heard on the merits of a case, and that simply takes time. So it's always a little bit of a tussle between the speed at getting cases resolved and the due process rights of the licensees. But I believe all this evidence that you've been presented this morning shows that the Dental Hygiene Board is doing a superb job handling the cases that they are receiving complaints on, and that those cases are getting adjudicated quickly. That's all of my comments for this morning, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to address them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any board member comments? I would just like to say, this is Carmen Jones, I would just like to recognize the staff for their efficiency in getting these cases through. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comments?
Thank you, Madam President. I've opened up the question and answer feature. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. Call-in users may press *3. If you're not seeing that option, you can click on the ellipses on your phone, and we are displaying instructions. We'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. Madam President, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to thank Mr. Sani for his presentation.
You're more than welcome, and it's a pleasure being before you this morning.
Thank you. We will now recess the full board to allow for the Education Committee meeting setup. Members not on this committee will sit in the audience.
So for this committee, if I can ask Pat and Dr. Panala to sit in the audience, please. Thank you.
And ask staff Krista Yuyama to call the roll. The time is 9:31.
This is Crystal Yuyama, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Jones.
Present.
Herman King.
Present.
Michael Long.
Present.
Justin Matthews.
Present.
Eleni Lali Triple Agarwal.
Present.
A quorum has been established. A simple majority of yes votes are required for any action.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda Item Education B, public comment for items not on the agenda. The Education Committee may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except whether to decide to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you so much. This is the moderator. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. Call-in users may raise their hands by pressing *3. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator, and I see no request for comment at this time, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item Education C, discussion and possible action to approve a permanent student enrollment increase with distance education at the University of Pacific Dental Hygiene Education Program.
Madam President, I would like to recuse myself.
Okay. Thank you.
For those online, just want to announce that board member Michael Long is recusing himself from this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. And please use PowerPoint for this presentation, or
not in this room, unfortunately. Yeah. Sorry, we're in a temp room, so.
that's okay. We'll use what we have.
Okay.
We actually had 2 reports sent. One was to increase enrollment on our San Francisco campus. Currently, we have 22 students per cohort. We'd like to increase that to 24. We do maintain a clinic and sim lab. Our clinic ratio of 1 to 4, sim lab ratio of 1 to 6, or not sim lab, sorry, other labs. Clinic and sim lab, sorry, are 1 to 4. Other labs are 1 to 6. We request to enroll 24 students in January of 2025. We'll accomplish the facility needs by utilizing 4 chairs in the main clinic of the school rather than the orthodontic clinic where we work, which is still within a short distance. We currently have enough faculty support 1 to 24 in patient care, but I plan to hire 1 to 2 more faculty for sim lab and pre-clinic to make those numbers work for our 1 to 4. And that's what I have for that report. The second report was to increase our enrollment by 4 with using distance learning. And I will like to share some time with Dr. Lisa Chavez to explain what we're looking for here.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this idea. The idea is really about making remote learning possible away from our main campus, but occurring in real time with our program. And the new opening of the Pacific Healthcare Collaborative will allow a great opportunity to do just that. It will be a fixed clinic that is going to be built, well, it will be opening in Sacramento in July, and it'll be housing our International Dental Student Program. So we'll have faculty and staff there on site, and there will be chairs and didactic space set aside for our hygiene students as well. So the idea is they'll have faculty there on site remotely, but they'll be going through courses in real time with the faculty on campus at Degoni. And the idea behind this is it gives an opportunity to test a model where we have this remote learning and we're able to reach individuals in remote communities who might be interested in having more education, but coming to San Francisco for 2 years may be out of the question. They may have commitments to family, other reasons that they can't leave their communities. And this may be an opportunity to take education to them. Sure. I mean, we know that in the rural areas, there's underserved populations, and so they're lacking adequate access to care. And so if we have people who are able to go through these educational programs in their own communities, they have commitments that prevent them from leaving, then presumably they're more likely to stay there, rather than sometimes when we recruit people coming, from remote communities, they may want to stay, in more urban areas. So we really want to reach individuals who would be great providers and great dental health professionals who may not have the opportunity otherwise.
We did file a distance education report with CODA as well, the same we filed with the CHBC. CODA has reached back a couple of weeks ago and has asked us to file a major education site report. So we'll be filing that report as well and sending that, of course, onto the Dental Hygiene Board of California as well. A couple of things, sorry that I can't show you, but a couple of things I did want to add. We do have a supervising dentist, actually 2 supervising dentists identified at the location for the Pacific Healthcare Collaborative. And then we will be hiring other part-time faculty to be with the students through all courses, clinic and didactic. Even when the students are synchronous in one location with the students in San Francisco, we'll have faculty in the room with them so they can participate in class activities and those types of things as well. So the idea is that they get the same education. The plan is also to allow the students in the remote part of the education to come to San Francisco twice during their time in the program. And that would also allow an opportunity for some students from San Francisco to go to the remote areas as well. And again, the idea is to introduce them to areas where they may want to go where there's shortages to provide healthcare.
And I'll just also add that this clinic is really designed to be an interprofessional education as well as interprofessional practice setting. So this is a really unique opportunity for dental hygienists to learn in that environment and be recognized as part of that broader team. So that's a really unique element of the Pacific Healthcare Collaborative.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there, I think, hang on there so in case we have questions. Are there any board member comments? I have a question, just for clarity. So I noticed you have a letter from CODA, and this is for the increase for 2 students.
At the San Francisco campus.
Okay.
We did file 2 reports.
Okay, so the other report hasn't been yet.
That's the one they called us back a couple of weeks ago and asked for a major site report, in addition to what we filed with you. So I guess it's actually 2 requests, 2 students in San Francisco, 4 students remote.
Okay. And okay, so I was out of order there. So we need a motion from the committee. Is there a motion?
Sure. Yeah, this is Justin Matthews. I can move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board to approve the permanent student enrollment increase with distance education at the University of Pacific Dental Hygiene Education Program.
Is there a second?
This is Lily Lolly Tribble, and I second that motion.
Great, thank you. Is there any committee discussions?
I just have a comment. This is Anthony Lund, Executive Officer. I love this concept when I read about it. I have been contacted by a couple of other agencies that are looking into this as far as remote learning to try and influence getting dental professionals into those rural areas. And I think, and I want to thank you for trying to get this established to open that doorway up to that avenue. So thank you very much.
Is there any other committee member discussion? Seeing none? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Sorry. When you do remote learning, are those courses accredited to your course credit?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, you provide the same classes as a remote learning, right? So they will have the same, when the student complete course, there will be same credit as
yes, when the students complete, they'll be graduates of the Degoni School of Dentistry with the same degree as everyone else. And the same course credits.
How would you be able to guarantee they the attendance is it's valid. Because when they do remote learning, they maybe step aside or not taking the classes, but they just fulfill the time.
We've addressed that by the students will be in a classroom during the remote sessions with a faculty member at all times. So even when they're doing didactic coursework remotely, there will be a faculty member with them to facilitate class activities, other things might be going on, and to ensure attendance. Striving to have the same environment in both.
I'm just getting clarification.
It might be a good idea. Yeah.
I'm just getting clarification on something here.
Separation. So we need to have a new motion.
Okay, I'm going to request a new motion because there's two separate items here that we vote separately on. We take them each individually. Okay, so can I get a motion?
Would the maker of the motion be open to revising into two separate motions?
Sure. Yes. Okay. Okay, so I will revise my motion. So I move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board to approve, one, the permanent student enrollment increase request.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yes. This is Lolly Lily Trouble, and I second that motion.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there any public comments? Is there any WebEx comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A?
Thank you. This is the moderator, and I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. For call-in users, you can raise your hand by pressing *3. Just a reminder, you will have 2 minutes to talk. I'll give you a 15-second warning, and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. Oh, we have a raised hand. So Janae Zapia, you should see a prompt to unmute yourself. There you go. Janae, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just to clarify, is this regarding the increased student to faculty ratio from 1 to 5 to 1 to 6?
No, this isn't.
This is okay. Then I will put my hand right back down.
Ratio will not change.
Thank you.
I think it's because that's on the agenda as well. So thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. I see no further requests for comment. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to call the vote on the first motion. I will ask Crystal to call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item.
This is Crystal Yama, and I will call the roll. Carmen Doan.
Aye.
Herman King.
Aye.
Michael Wong.
Recused.
Oh, recused.
Oh, recused.
Yeah.
So do I say Michael Wong?
Recused.
Yeah, recused.
Justin Matthews.
Aye.
Nalani Lolly Triple Agrawal.
Aye.
Motion has passed.
Thank you. And Now we will go to the second motion.
Sure, yes. So this is Committee Member Matthews. So I move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board to approve the permanent student enrollment increase with distance education at the University of Pacific Dental Hygiene Educational Program.
Is there any committee? Oh, is there a second? I'm sorry.
This is Nalini Lally-Tribble, and I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any committee member discussion?
Just a clarification, the distance learning one is the one that you're trying to obtain approval from CODA? Is
We're filing an additional report with.
is it both of them, or is it just the distance learning? Okay. Okay. Yeah, then we should modify that motion. Justin, just a clarification, because we work hand in hand with CODA. What's that? Okay, sidebar real quick, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, they already have everything in place. Okay. Thank you for your patience. The motion stands. Thank you.
Is there any committee discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Yes. Yes, please.
Hi, Elena Francisco, RDHAP, on behalf of myself, and I'm also University of Pacific faculty. Probably should say that. Should have said that first. Anyhow, I'm thankful. I want to thank you guys for seeing the vision here that we have, because there is a real tremendous need in the underserved communities. Of course, there's a tremendous need for hygienists anyway, but that's another story in the rural communities. So we're really excited to get dental hygiene to these rural communities. Thank you very much for your support.
Thanks for your comment.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comments?
Thank you. This is the moderator, and I have opened up the question and answer feature. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or you may simply raise your hand. Call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand, and we are displaying instructions. We'll give you a moment. All right, we do have a raised hand. It looks like they use perhaps their license number, DR05108837, and you should see a prompt to unmute yourself. Go ahead and click on that. There you go, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm a student at Southwestern College. I do have a question, kind of like a clarification question. So you guys are talking about like where kids that are into the program but are at a distance to do the didactic part. Am I right? At the college, like an online class. Is that right?
No, it'd be a synchronous class. So it'd be located in a different classroom and attend synchronously online, yes, but with a faculty member present.
Oh, I see. So kind of like an extended. Oh, okay. I get it. That's all I wanted. Just clarification.
Oh, thank you for the question.
All right, this is a moderator. I see no further requests for comment. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Yes, couldn't see you back there.
Tony Pat Hansen, prior to board. I will speak as a public. I'd like to know if during this process, the fees have increased. Or any fees for the students acquiring.
Okay, so am I allowed just to answer? I don't want to make sure I'm out of turn.
I couldn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
If there was a fee.
So their fees have been increased
Oh,
for the students as being extended.
No. In fact, our fee increases are this. If they come on every year, they're the same every year. It has nothing to do with whether the student will be remote or in person. And this process has not incurred us any fees. There was a grant involved that Francisco was able to give for us, and then yeah.
Thank you so much.
Is there any other public comments? Seeing none, I will ask Crystal to call the roll and record votes for this second agenda item.
This is Crystal Uyama, and I will call the roll. Marvin Jones,
Aye.
Vernon King,
Aye.
Justin Matthews,
Aye.
Melanie Lally Tribble Agrawal.
Aye.
Motion has passed.
and just a notation, committee member Michael Long has recused for this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item Education D, discussion and possible action to approve a clinical facility increase at the West Coast University Dental Hygiene Educational Program. I asked Dr. Michelle Hurlbut, West Coast University Dental Hygiene Educational Program Dean, to present the request.
Good morning, Education Committee. I am Dr. Michelle Hurlbut. I'm the Dean and Program Director at West Coast University, located in Anaheim, California. The question before you today is generated from CCR 1105.3B2, which does require the Dental Hygiene Board to approve any expansion of dental hygiene facilities. So the question before you is, our request is to expand our simulation clinic dental materials lab, as well as adding 9 more dental units into that old space when we move. So that's the question before you, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Please identify yourself and then make a motion.
This is Melanie Lally Tribble Agrawal, and I would like to move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board to approve the clinical facility increase at the West Coast University Dental Hygiene Educational Program.
Is there a second?
Long second.
Thank you. Is there any committee member discussion? Yes.
Good morning. I was reviewing past agendas and materials and noticed in 2022 that with one of the site visits, there was a comment which you guys were satisfactorily passed, but there was a comment that there was a lack of space. And I just want to commend West Coast for moving forward and creating more space and addressing that, even though it was in compliance in the past. So thank you for bringing.
Thank you. It is true, we are tight. We do meet all the requirements, but yes, it's absolutely, thank you for that.
And I'd just like to say thank you for making more space for dental hygiene, knowing there's a shortage, you know, it's important, so thank you. Is there any public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you. I've opened up the Q&A feature. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. Call-in users may raise their hand by pressing *3. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. I will now ask Crystal to call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Crystal Yama, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Jones.
Aye.
Ken King.
Aye.
Long.
Aye.
Justin Matthews.
Aye.
Melanie Triple-Aguilar.
Aye.
The motion has passed.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
We will now move on to agenda item Education E, discussion and possible action on the status of the Pasadena City College Dental Hygiene Educational Program. I would ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. The Dental Hygiene Board of California conducted a site visit on October 12, 2022 of the Pasadena City College Dental Hygiene Educational Program. This site visit was generated due to the board's oversight goals to review all dental hygiene educational programs in California. Based on the results of the site visit, it was noted that evidence of program compliance with minimum standards set by the California Code of Regulations and the Commission on Dental Accreditation was deficient. At the board's November 18, 2023 full board meeting, the board reviewed staff reports and documentation provided by Pasadena City College, demonstrating areas of permanent and temporary compliance due for remaining deficiencies on September 15, 2023. The board expressed concerns regarding the R Building Educational and Facility Master Plan Project Schedule, which stresses the timeline for the proposed R Building renovation, which will include the new dental hygiene educational program clinical space. The board believed at the time the timeline for Pasadena City College to complete its intended plan was unacceptable, as it was for multiple years, and the dental hygiene educational program there would be operating at full capacity while non-compliant of the law. The deficiencies that require correction are in the best interest of Pasadena City College students, faculty, and the public who expect safe sanitary conditions when administering and receiving dental hygiene care. Although Pasadena City College has submitted a plan for correcting the deficiencies, the timeline for completion is unacceptable, as they will continue to operate deficient of the minimum requirements to safely operate a dental hygiene educational program pursuant to the law. If you will refer to page 180, you will see the email exchange regarding the R Building found between the board and Pasadena City College. Therefore, the board recommended Pasadena City College be placed on today's meeting agenda to address their concerns regarding the safety and efficacy of the current clinical space, as well as to the DHBC's approval status of the dental hygiene educational program.
Thank you. I would now like to provide an opportunity for the representatives from Pasadena City College to comment on the board's findings for their dental hygiene program before the committee acts. I believe we have in person Adrian Reganian, PCC Dental Hygiene Program Director, and Dr. Micah Young, Dean of Health Sciences. And online we have Laura Ramirez, Assistant Superintendent and Vice President of Instruction, and Mr. Alex Bokelheid, Executive Director, Strategic Communications and Marketing.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. Okay, first, good morning. We are here on behalf of Pasadena City College dental hygiene program. As stated, I'm Dr. Mike Young, Dean of Health Sciences. First of all, we'd like to thank the board for acknowledging that the program was in compliance and has been in compliance for a number of years. The program has existed for over 50 years in the same facility, and we understand the facility is a bit dated, right? So it's a 50-year facility, but during that time period, the program has continued to produce quality dental hygienists for the community and surrounding area. We understand that the facility is a public good, and we are California Community College, so we are governed by the California Community College standards, as well as facility planning and innovation and improvement timeline. So we have attempted to, and we agree that we want to congratulate the board for taking the steps to review all educational programs across the state, and we fully anticipate complying with all the board regulations. We understand that the program, once again, going back 50-year timeline of educating dental hygienists for the state of California, we had the visit in 2022, which was the first visit we'd had in a number of years. The program has always maintained compliance with CODA standards, and all our CODA accreditation visits have been in full compliance. So once again, not acknowledging that the facility is dated. It is a 50-year-old facility that needs upgrades, significant upgrades. And as such, has been part of our facility and master planning process. And that process has stated that we are looking for ways to modernize the facility to make sure that we're in full compliance with the board standards. We have taken steps to reduce capacity within the context of the clinic in terms of structuring. Historically, we've had 16 students in the clinic at one time, currently have 8 students in the clinic at one time. We've added additional clinical sessions for students, which has resulted in an increase into a decrease in students, the number of students with every instructor. So they're getting more personal time with instructors and supervising dentists. We feel that this has allowed us to effectively maintain safety and confidentiality of patients with our current physical footprint, understanding that there's a timeline that has been submitted by our board, as well as our facilities team and our college president in terms of updating the facility, which will commence in 2026 and then in 2029. There may be an opportunity to advance that timeline in case there's a new facility that is added and dental hygiene has been prioritized as one of the projects within that facility master plan. So we respectfully request that the board does not cite the program, but ask for quarterly updates in terms of our timeline in terms of a new facility. We will happily submit those to the board as per request.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to express ourselves. As Dr. Young said, we have made the changes as board recommended as a consequence of the site visit. I can assure us the program director and the faculty on the floor in the clinic and during lectures were not affected, but the clinic capacity, as Dr. Young mentioned, and we have made adjustments. Both standards are maintained. The chairs are now, we're using all diagonal chairs that are compliant with privacy and all the student access to the patient and disability. It is a small clinic. It has its issues, but the good thing that has come, and again, I acknowledge that it needs an update. It's an old building, old clinic. Equipment is new. It's just the clinic space is limited and we don't have that much space. But the good thing that has come out of that, as Dr. Young mentioned, we have 4-to-1 faculty ratio, which recommended is 5-to-1. More extra clinic days have been added, which students always have requested to have evening clinics because it brings patients and it's easier for patients to come. There's less chaos during the large, like it used to be during large clinic hours. Faculty is more focused on teaching the students, and our record of 100% national board and clinical boards passing, I think, speaks to itself. And multiple emails from the community, even from outside the state, dentists requesting our graduates. I think that has also speaks for itself. So as Dr. Young mentioned, probably, it would be nice that the board doesn't cite us, but gives recommendations with for the reporting until, and our Board of Trustees is aware, our president is aware of the situation, and they have put us on their priority list, but we have no control beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other speakers?
I do believe our vice president is present, superintendent vice president is present. I'm not sure if she wanted to make a comment or not. So she's on WebEx.
Okay. Does anybody online wish to make comments for Pasadena City College?
Thank you. This is the moderator, and I'll go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. I do see a raised hand, so yes, attendees logged into WebEx, you may also raise your hand, or you may use the Q&A panel to indicate you would like to speak. I see Laura Ramirez with her hand up. Laura, you should see a prompt to unmute yourself. Go ahead and click on that. There you go, Laura, you are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to address the board remotely. I just want to impress upon the board that this is a serious matter for Pasadena City College. Our Board of Trustees and our president understand that we need to be in compliance, and we have every intent to be fully in compliance. If there's anything we can do to mitigate the operation of our clinic, we're willing to, we want to do that as we go through our facilities master planning process and work with the state division of the state architect to make sure that we have a new and modern clinic that meets all of the regulations.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who?
I think Alex.
Did you have? Alex is there, but I'm not sure if Alex wants to make a comment or not, but we can verify.
Moderator, is there anybody else who would like to make a comment on PCC's behalf?
Thank you. I am looking and I see no further requests for comments and no further raised hands.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion? Please identify yourself and then make a motion.
This is Justin Matthews, board member, education committee member. Due to the education committee's concerns regarding continued dental hygiene program operations deficient of the law, I move for the education committee to recommend to the full board to issue a citation and place PCC on probation for 2 years with quarterly updating reporting requirements on their progression toward compliance.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Is there any committee member discussion?
Thank you for your program, 50 years. That's incredible. And it sounds like you have good results from yours.
Excuse me, Mike, can you speak up?
Yes.
Thank you.
I guess Dr. Petty,
yes,
the difference between quarterly reporting and then citing and putting on probation, does that affect your position and your role?
Well, citation, I would issue the citation from the board.
Right.
And I actually,
could you monitor them better? How does it affect your monitoring, whether they're on probation versus relying on quarterly reports from the program?
it would basically do the same thing. Probation, I would monitor the program regardless. They would just be required to submit a quarterly report to me, but it would be up to.
Can I'll just add a little bit more. Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. By placing the program and issuing a citation and placing them on probation, it's an intermediary step that we didn't have before. And it's just a progression to kind of give the program a forewarning that they're moving towards full disapproval if these facilities aren't updated according to the law to their minimum standards. So it's instead of just doing the quarterly reports where it's just basically monitoring, this is the next step towards potential punitive actions for not complying with the law. We have to take these steps in increments in order to go to the, I'll just call it the full sledgehammer of removing approval. Whereas we didn't have that provision before. The only provision that we had in the past was to fully disapprove a program, which I hope never occurs. But, a program did come close to facing that. The legislature saw that we only had basically an on-off switch, approval, disapproval. So we got these intermediary steps to kind of give that shot across the bow that there's a little bit of a warning before we have to pursue further action.
And I see that the time frame for the new facility is from 2020, started in 2026 into completion in 2029. And a 2-year probation would just get us to 2026 when it's the start. Is 2-year probation the minimum, the maximum? Or do we set that number?
That would be for the board to decide.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
The motions that staff recommends are, again, just that recommendation. The committee is free to modify and create their own motion if needed.
Yes. If I may interject, I would respect for the request that we have quarterly reports. And if we fail to achieve a timeline that's acceptable to the board based upon our quarterly reports to that 2026 timeline, then the board takes the actions that they're planning to take today in terms of citation. I think the college is fully committed to making the changes in terms of updating the facility and upgrading the space that's available for dental hygiene education in Pasadena. But I think a citation would negatively impact, and having to make that public-facing knowledge the program has been cited would negatively potentially impact the quality of students, the quality of faculty, and quality of staff we have to support the program. We have a great relationship with our community. We've never been cited by CODA. We've never been cited by the board before. My concern is a citation will greatly diminish professionals' willingness to align themselves with our program, educational program. So we would like to, I would personally like to respectfully request that we move toward the quarterly reporting. And if we're not making considerable timeline by that 2026 deadline, that the board does indeed take that citation step to make sure that there is not only shot across the bow, but the college and institution fully understands that we are in danger of being shut down by the board.
And that is something, a comment for the committee to determine and to, think about. But even with or without a citation, staff's recommendation is at least for probation. So that still can send not the most positive message, but at least, individuals who are planning to enroll at PCC will know that there's some form of action being taken by the board. Or the committee at this point, I'm sorry. Still to be determined by the board.
Are there any other committee member comments?
As to what you were asking earlier, probation, they will be monitored. Executive Officer Lum and I are committed to, making sure everything goes the way forward.
Can you say that a little louder for the audience? I don't think they heard.
I said, regardless of the actions of the board, they will be monitored, whether they put them on probation or quarterly or whatnot. I said, Executive Officer Lum and I, and of course my subject matter expert, are committed to ensuring that the board's interests are protected and the students and consumer protection.
So I have a question. Would you like to modify your?
Do you want your motion to stand as is, or would you like to modify it based upon the comment?
I would prefer my motion to stand is, and we can call the question. And if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, then we can revisit.
Okay.
I would like to make I need clarification whether I can make an amendment to increase the probation time, since they're only 2026 to 2029, and if we do a 2-year probation, it will only go until 2026. So shouldn't we keep them in probation for a longer period?
Well, rather, the recommendation was for the 2 years because the committee can ultimately recommend to extend it at a later date. So that's why I didn't want to indicate a prolonged probation period. Because then we'll see, we can, as monitoring, we will see the progression and then report back to the board.
Yeah, it will be reported back at every board meeting as probation stands.
And timelines on the building modifications coming online could adjust. So yes. Again, from my perspective, I would keep my motion as stated.
My concern is how this reflects on the program itself and the campus. How it will be perceived by the community, by the students and the faculty. And I do hear what you're saying, and I would agree with you that this is a big impact on your campus. And I just moving forward, I want you to know that at least I understand that, regardless of the outcome of this vote.
If I may add, the other thing the citation would possibly do would prevent us from getting potential matching federal funds, right? So if we wanted facility funds, one of the things that they check for is, are there any citations on the program? So even if we're looking for external matching funds, a lot of the public health departments and public health approval agencies want to see if a facility has been cited for noncompliance. And noncompliance may impact our ability and eligibility for funds. So we respectfully request probationary status and not a citation, because if we're looking for external matching funds, because it's a public works project, so we're always looking for additional dollars to augment what we have available. Citation puts us in a negative category in terms of not having a fully approved program that's free and clear of encumbrances. Probationary status, they understand.
Yeah, could I ask a question about you seeking those funds historically over the last 5 to 10 years, say? Have you been seeking those funds? Are you currently seeking those funds? With regard to your comment on the citation?
Yes, we have actually sought funds previously through some of the Congressional Appropriations Grant. We just were not funded the last cycle. We were encouraged to reapply because we wanted to build a new facility to support the dental hygiene program.
And which cycle was that?
This was the last cycle, the cycle that ended with Dianne Feinstein's term.
And are you currently being considered for funding?
We have already submitted a new proposal to request funding. We don't know our status yet.
It's just one additional comment. The reason why we added on the citation, as far as the program was concerned, we didn't have knowledge about the federal funding aspect, just to let you know that. Part of it is because the site visit was done in October of 2022. And since that time, it has been a year and a half, and we've seen minimal progression other than what was reported for our November meeting with these timelines. And I understand, you know, there's administrations that you need to go through and timelines to get contractors and things like that. But there is a lot of work going on at PCC, and maybe you can convey to the administration there that, you know, you need a higher, shall we say, priority to get the clinics back into compliance. And so it's something that's the reason why we looked at what possible avenues could be done with the school.
So, and we fully understand that we need to bring in clinic compliance. I, as a healthcare practitioner, have walked the facility space, and when I walked through the space, I realized it was a dated space that needs to be upgraded to modern healthcare standards.
Thank you.
Are there any other committee comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. If you've called in, you can press *3 to raise your hand. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We'll now ask Crystal to call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
Oh, question. Wendy, this is Lily Civil. I would like to know, when do you expect to find out about the federal funding? When do you expect to get an answer whether you're approved for funding?
We have to wait till the congressional budget cycle approves, so we would wait until whenever their funds are released in terms of whether or not we were cited as a project from the list. So, as always with federal projects, there's not a clear determinate answer as to what was funded, when was funded, and when the dates are released, we would find out.
There's no guarantee that you'll be receiving the funds?
That is correct. We're looking for matching federal funds to augment funds that we have, but we already have planned within our facility bond measure to renovate the clinic. So if we have funds that come in exogenously, it may accelerate the timeline, but there's already an existing timeline that the college has committed to using present funds for building renovation.
Which is the 2026 to the 2029.
That is correct, which is the 26, 29, which is the funds that have been raised through a bond measure for our local community college district. Which also have to follow governance processes in terms of state public bonds. So there are certain rules that we have to follow with public bond money. So we can't just automatically turn on a dime and say we're going to, and once we make that public commitment to moving forward in projects that are approved by the bond, we can't misappropriate funds. And I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of my board or my executives in terms of saying that they could commit to something. What they've written is what they can commit to, and that's what we've told the public that has had trust in us by allowing us to float a bond and passing that bond measure, which has invested dollars into our college for new facilities. They understand the importance and significance of our dental hygiene program. We have great community support. We have great dental community support as well. We're committed to having an excellent program. We've had a program for over half a century that has produced outstanding results, and we are looking to continue that legacy. Pasadena City College is also this year's celebrating its 100-year anniversary. We're not going anywhere. We want to be part of this community. We want to be part of producing quality hygienists for the community in facilities that reflect the 50 years.
And just as statistics, 5 of our Board of Trustees, their hygienists are PCC graduates. So they love them and they know them and they support the program. So they understand because they value and they have personal experience, so they know.
I do have one clarification question on the federal funding. Is it federal funding specific for the dental hygiene program, or is it federal funding for PCC overall?
It will be federal funding for facilities and clinics because we have an outward-facing clinic, right? So our clinic services patients. So we're looking for healthcare funding for clinic renovation, right? So building new clinics and funding of that structure. Not for the entirety of the PCC campaign, but just for the clinic-facing portion of the program.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask the maker of the motion if he would consider removing the citation from the current motion.
Second that.
Oh, well, we have to make the motion.
In light of new information with regard to federal funding, I don't want to stand in your way in preventing you from getting matching funds. I do feel, though, the actions or inactions taken by PCC do warrant probation. So I would be okay amending my motion to remove the citation, but keeping probation and keeping probation for 2 years. So would you like me to restate my motion?
Please. Please.
Question.
Yes.
When on probation, quarterly updating reporting requirements, would we also be visiting them?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Yes. We have authority in new provisions as of 2019 to perform announced and unannounced site visits.
Okay.
And obviously, we can do that for any program, but we particularly would focus that on programs that are having issues.
Okay. So I would like to restate my motion. So So here's my new wording of my motion. Due to the Education Committee's concerns regarding continued dental hygiene program operations deficient of the law, I move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board to place Pasadena City College on probation for 2 years with quarterly updating reporting requirements on their progression toward compliance.
Is there a second?
This is Nalini Lawley-Tribble, and I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any committee member discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, is there any WebEx comments? Moderator, if you could please if you would please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment.
Thank you so much. I have opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. If you've called in, you can press *3 to raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I do see a raised hand from Jay Petrillo, RDH. Jay, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go, you're unmuted.
College dental hygiene graduate from 1985. I am a board trustee for our Long Beach component, and I really want to support Pasadena City College and honor the legacy and great work and education that they have provided through the years. Hopefully we're able to get some money to upgrade the facility. So I appreciate the new amendment that you're speaking about to just keep on probation, but really I understand from what I'm hearing that the powers that be know that they need to get this done and are going to really work on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. I see no further requests for comment. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. I will now ask Crystal to call the roll and record votes for the agenda item.
This is Crystal Uyama, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Jones.
Aye.
Sherman Case.
Aye.
Michael Long.
Aye.
Justin Matthews.
Aye.
Nalini Lawley-Tribble Agrawal.
Aye.
Motion has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now going to take a 15-minute break. Okay, we're calling the meeting back to order, and next on the agenda is Education F, discussion and possible action on the status of Taft College Dental Hygiene Education Program. I would ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. The Dental Hygiene Board of California conducted a site visit at the Taft College Dental Hygiene Educational Program on February 21st through the 22nd of 2024. At the visit, evidence of program compliance with the minimum dental hygiene educational program standards set by the Business and Professions Code, the California Code of Regulations, and CODA was deficient. Taft was determined to have 7 violations. The most egregious of the violations is that Taft failed to ensure dental hygiene students completed all requirements for graduation established by the board and CODA. Therefore, several 2022 and 2023 graduates did not meet all program requirements, received licensure as verified through reviewed documentation. These students obtained their licensure based on notification from the program, in other words, letters from the program director, that the required competencies were completed. However, as discovered during the site visit, the students did not complete their competencies to be issued a dental hygiene license in California. As reported, 2022 of 2022 graduates, there were 15 students in this cohort. 9 of the students failed to see patients with all classifications of periodontal disease pursuant to 16 CCR Section 1105.2E, and Code of Standard 214. 3 students failed to complete all local anesthesia requirements pursuant to 16 CCR 1107, little b, 9, large A. 3 students failed to complete all radiology requirements pursuant to 16 CCR 1105.2, little d, 4, capital F, little I. Of the 2023 graduates, there were 17 students in this cohort. 9 students failed to see patients with all classifications of periodontal disease, as said before, pursuant to 16 CCR 1105.2, little e, and Code of Standard 214. 2 students failed to complete all local anesthesia requirements pursuant to 16 CCR 1107, little b, a, capital A. 1 student failed to complete all radiology requirements pursuant to 16 CCR 1105.2, little d, 4, capital F, little I. This was not the first time TAP failed to ensure dental hygiene students completed all of the requirements for graduation established by the board and CODA. Due to complaints received in April of 2017, committee staff, at the time it was the Dental Hygiene Committee of California, conducted site visits on May 8th, 2017, May 15th, and May 15th, 2017, and determined the following. And just so you know, the May 16 report can be found on page 197 of the board meeting materials. So the class of 2017 clinical requirement status, 3 students completed their patients' performance evaluations. No students completed all their local anesthesia requirements, and no students completed their nitrous oxide oxygen analgesia sedation requirements. Additional data, so in other words, only 3 students completed all requirements of the class, so only 3. Additional data in the May 16th report of note, in the class of 2015, 8 students out of 17 completed less than 75% of the performance evaluations required for the final semester. 14 out of 17 students completed less than 75% of the required physical performance evaluations for the final semester. So at the June 10th, 2017 meeting of the Dental Hygiene Committee of California, the committee voted to withdraw, and just so you know, the June 9th report can be found on page 218 of the program materials, or agenda materials, excuse me. The committee voted to withdraw approval of the CAC Dental Hygiene Educational Program based on those deficiencies of program completion, grading policies, administration involvement, and documentation integrity. And the class of 2017's clinical requirement status. The committee then issued a stay of withdrawal at the November 18, 2017 full committee meeting, pending follow-up site visits from staff. Due to the discovery of the missing clinical requirements, CAP offered an additional session over the summer to help those students complete all outstanding competencies so they could graduate and allow them to get a license here in California. On July 24, 2017, committee staff revisited tasks and conducted a thorough audit of all student records, which then finally demonstrated all class of 2017 students completed their state mandated requirements for licensure. The July 24th report can be found on page 226 of the meeting materials. At the April 21st, 2018 full committee meeting, the full committee then directed the executive officer to issue a new approval for Taft College. So, as Taft demonstrates repeated violations of the law and code of standards by graduating students lacking California state mandated requirements for licensure, staff recommends a citation and fine of $2,000 or $1,000 for each year of the current 2022 and 2023 graduating unqualified students pursuant to the law, and to place TAFT on a 3-year probation period with quarterly reporting requirements, identifying corrective measures where the program will be reassessed. During the probation period, TAFT may experience announced and unannounced site visits from board staff to check on the progression towards compliance or further board action.
Thank you. I would now like to provide an opportunity for the Taft College representatives to comment on the board's findings for the dental hygiene program before the committee acts. Vicki Kimbrough, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Vicki Kimbrough. I'm the current director of Taft College Dental Hygiene. I'm here to answer any questions, but I'm basically here also to give an update on the recent site visit in February from the board site visitors. With regard to issue 2 and classifications of all periodontal disease, the clinic lead instructors have met with all students, and they created a master list to make sure that all requirements were being met by all the students. And at this time, all perio classifications have been met by students. On issue number 2, failure of students meeting graduation requirements, the dental hygiene graduation requirements for Taft include the state-mandated local anesthesia injection, soft tissue curettage, and nitrous oxide administration, as well as the state-mandated radiographs, the CODA patient categories, and periodontal stages. As of December 2023, all students met the X-ray requirement for graduation. As of March 16, all but one student had completed the nitrous experience required by regulations. All students have met the curettage requirement. And there's only about 4 students that have a range of maybe 2 or 3 injections to meet by graduation, which is May 8th. So all students will meet graduation requirements and competencies by May 8th of this year. As for the issue with regard of an electronic or digital tracking program for clinic requirements, we have been paper-based for several years. As of February 29, 4 laptop computers were placed into the dental hygiene clinic for faculty use when assigned as instructors during clinic sessions. Course competencies and rubrics were added to the Canvas shell of each clinic course if not already in place. All clinic instructors enter student points for competencies in real time during clinic sessions. Students have immediate access to their grade status. With regard to the lack of computers at each operatory for students to review x-rays during patient care, the clinic facility has always had 4 computers on the clinic floor and 4 computers in radiology with Ethernet and Dentrix DEXIS software, plus 1 laptop in the clinic technician's office for use by students and faculty when reviewing or critiquing patient x-rays. As of March 12th, the IT department loaned 16 laptop computers to the dental hygiene clinic. When each student is assigned to patient care, they have a laptop at chairside to view radiographs during clinic sessions. The long-term solution, Taft College has ordered 20 new laptops for dental hygiene to replace the loaned computers, along with the Ascend academic cloud-based software. Ascend allows students and faculty to enter patient data, track clinic requirements, view x-rays, and provide necessary reports, in addition to allowing students to see scores as they complete requirements and competencies. The Ascend software will be installed on the new computer once received. Faculty and staff training will take place May through July 2024 and be in full use for all clinic courses as of the fall semester in 2024. With regard to the issue and age of function of 2 of our dental chairs, 14 chairs were replaced by ADEC in 2014. The 2 Morris chairs are 18 years old. All chairs, including the Morris chairs, function in the same manner. The base lowers, the chair back can lower a patient to the supine position. The headrests articulate and the chairs have a release arm that allows them to swivel. Students can sit and work in a safe and ergonomic position during patient care when assigned to any clinic station. Faculty have space in each operatory to observe and demonstrate during the teaching learning experience in patient care procedures. The purchase of 2 new ADEC dental chairs is moving through the college approval process and will be approved by the Board of Trustees on April 11th. At that time, 2 new chairs will be ordered and delivery and installation is expected in late May. With regard to the issue for no dedicated office space for adjunct faculty to meet with students or prep for courses. Dental hygiene adjunct faculty do not teach any didactic courses at all. They are only assigned to labs and clinic sessions. The Vice President of Instruction reported there has always been a shared office space for all college adjunct faculty if and when needed. The office space is located in the Technical Arts Building, room T6G. The dental hygiene faculty also have access to this shared office space. When necessary, the dental hygiene adjunct faculty have access to the dental hygiene classroom when it's not in use, or a library conference room. All meeting rooms on campus are on a reserved list and can be used by anyone requesting the space. Results of our February 1 and 2, 2024 CODA site visit. Taft was found in compliance of all standards that have been mentioned here in this report as of late by the board site visitors. Also, respectfully asking that the citation and fines be removed based on the staff's recommendations. Removal of the citation based on the same argument presented by Pasadena City College. Taft is also seeking funds for a vocational center to be built on campus, and a citation could impede the requisition and application process for federal funds. And we've been working, the college has been working on federal funding for a while, but COVID kind of impeded that process as well. Taft College is a small college. And with regard to the fines, there has been no other fines placed on other programs who may or may not have met any regulations that have been reported by site visitors in the past. Even in the November board packet, there were no programs being fined. So although when the board is going to go site visit a program, we're given a list of items to provide for the site visitors. We're not given a rubric as to how we're going to be evaluated on those materials. So I would suggest something like that for the programs as well. It's not any intention of any program to misrepresent themselves or make sure that, or, graduate what the board describes as unqualified students. I'm here to answer any questions.
Is there a motion? Please identify yourself and then make a motion. This is Carmen Dones. I move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board to issue a citation and fine of $2,000, $1,000 each for the years of 2022 and 2023 graduations, and place the Taft College Dental Hygiene Education Program on 3 years probation with quarterly updating reporting requirements to ensure compliance of the law. Is there a second?
Long second.
Is there any committee member discussion? Oh, Michael, go ahead.
I find it challenging that the time frame between 2017 and 2022-3, that it appears that there's the possibility that we continue to allow the students to apply for a state licensure without completing the competencies. I understand, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we only checked files back these 2 years and didn't.
So when I give them a list, I look at myself and the SME, we look at the past 2 graduating classes. It's what we've done. We look at the past 2 and the current 2 to see how everything is laid out. So we thought 2 years was fair. So that's why we only looked at 2022 and 2023.
Is it a possibility that these non-compliance has gone from 2017 till 2022?
Anything's possible. I don't know because I did not review. 2017 graduates task did remediate all the students to make sure that they met all the graduation criteria. Then I did not review 2018, 2019, 2020, 21. So 18 through 21, sorry.
Okay, thank you for that. You know, as a faculty member myself, there's so much information and I understand the requirements. I think that most faculty do, and it comes from our, like the program director, the program itself. And can you maybe explain to the board how, for this time period, it wasn't that there's like your record keeping process of anesthesia and the perio completion?
Yes, we have a tracking system. Each student has a clinic tracking folder. The competencies for each clinic is established by the lead instructor, and students have to perform those procedures prior to requesting a competency. So, for example, let's just take, health histories, for example. The faculty member might establish a health history competency, yet the student must perform that procedure and get signed off by faculty who have evaluated the procedure prior to the competency. And maybe the student did 4 health history procedures because of the patients they're working on and the criteria that the health history competency is based on. But maybe they didn't do the one competency that was required, but they've done 4 other health histories and gotten signed off by faculty. So it's a tracking system, in that manner. And we did identify that our program has 77 competencies, where other programs have much less. And so we're in the process of reevaluating what needs to be a competency in each semester and or a competency for graduation. So we're in that process as well. As an administrator, I'm not faculty. I can only guide them in what they can consider for their courses because they have the academic freedom to establish their course material and how their courses are run. Like I said, it's never been it was never our intention. We feel that we do graduate competent individuals. Just if they didn't in the past, well, let me put it this way. I wasn't the program director prior to 2017. When the board visited during that time, the program was informed that students shouldn't be sharing patients, they should be completing their patients and things like that. So we followed the direction of the board recommendations at that time. At this time, we're being
recommended that, to have our students share patients. So we're getting mixed messages as well. So that's why I say, with the board having the purview to site visit programs and provide approval, withdraw approval, cite them, find them, it would be beneficial to the programs to have more of a site visitor guideline, much like CODA does, so that we can see where programs are getting cited. CODA even provides us, the most frequently cited list, whereas the board does not at this time. So I think there are definitely things on TAF's part that have changed based on the site visit last month. And we feel that we will be in compliance. We were given a May 1 deadline, and we feel we're in compliance now. So once the site visitors return during finals week, they'll be able to go ahead and see that all of our graduating students will meet the requirements. And in the future, we don't see an issue because we will have a better tracking system.
Question. In regards to the lessons learned from the 2017 site visit, is there anything other than just the not sharing patients that TAF put into place to remedy the competency compliance?
At that time, it was more about the graduation requirements, and I believe there was a lot of infection control issues and the way the clinic was designed. All that was remedied prior to my coming on board later in the year of 2017. Yeah, all of those things were remedied. Yeah.
So from the report, it says that in 2017, the students were remediated, and I believe you have mentioned that students were being remediated now. My question is that before the letter was sent to the DHBC for the students to be licensed, or are the students being completing those requirements after the letter?
Which letter?
Completion letter, like a letter saying that the students have graduated, or
Are you talking in 2017?
I'm talking about, yes, 2017. Did the students get remediated after they graduated or before?
No.
Correct.
Well, TAF did not allow them to graduate. We had gone there, found the deficiencies.
Okay.
TAF remediated them, and that was at the board's discretion. What's the word I'm looking for? At the board's direction. The board directed TAF to remediate those students before they could graduate so they could be issued their license.
I believe they graduated after the summer session was added at that time. Yeah.
My question was, if the board hadn't done a site visit, all these corrections would not have come into to be known. So how do we ensure that you're going to be continuing to stay compliant?
Well, I think one of the positives is adding the technology. We've been a paper-based program or a hybrid-based program. We do have some technology in place. And then the college has been working on building a vocational building. They're looking for funding for the vocational building, and dental hygiene is supposed to move. And so the investment, I think, has been just kind of waiting to move. We've been waiting to move to do the investment with technology. We can't wait anymore. And so the college has already gone and invested in the technology required.
As clarification, the funding that you're requesting is for vocational services that's going to improve the hygiene?
It's for a new building, yes, and that takes at least $18 million. Yeah, so the vocational center that's going to be built at some point dental hygiene will move to the vocational center. Yes.
For clarification, the students from this 2022 class, did they graduate before completing their requirements, or did they complete all their requirements and they're slated to graduate?
No, they looked at the two previous graduating classes.
So they graduated.
They're all licensed.
They're licensed, but did they complete their requirements before they were licensed?
Well, they passed their course. Yes, they passed the course. We track their anesthesia requirements too. And so we track those ever since it became regulation to make sure that the students, are meeting the requirements. So we track them from the lab course on.
The report had mentioned that there were some deficiencies, correct?
Right.
In previous classes.
In the two graduating classes that Joanne Galliano, the SME for us, for the board, as well as, so 2022 and 2023, we're now in 2024. So the past two graduating classes, we reviewed those the documentation, including all of the competencies and requirements to complete those courses. Not all of the requirements for the competencies were completed. So that is in the first section of my memo. That first section will tell you the deficiencies, along with the law that it is linked to.
Thank you. Are there any other committee comments or discussion? Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about how much it costs for a dental hygiene student after they, throughout completing the program? What would be their estimated costs that they would have to pay out in order to receive their education and training at Taft College through your program? Do you know?
Our estimated 2-year cost is around $14,000.
I only ask because on the motion is a stipulation for fines for these violations. So I'm looking at what the cost of the student who is enrolling in a program where they're not expecting these deficiencies to be part of their program, because I believe that the fines are at our discretion for the board. So I'm just trying to figure out if this is an appropriate amount, as the motion has suggested. So yes, about $14,000 per student for the program. Okay, thank you.
It's Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. Just a couple of comments in regards to what you indicated, Vicki. The board never gave direction for sharing patients, so I'm not sure where that comment arose from. A couple other things, to be honest, I was kind of disappointed when I saw this site visit report in knowing that I had to pursue action because of Taft's past. I would hope and expected that Taft would be fully in compliance. One thing that I saw when I read the report was that because the competencies weren't fulfilled, especially the most invasive ones, we rely on all the program directors to verify that their students are fully qualified, meaning they've completed all their competencies according to the law. Now, individual faculty may believe that they have fully competent students, but if they haven't completed everything as stated in the law and code of standards, then they don't meet the minimum requirements to issue the license. So when I saw the deficiencies, I have to question the procedure that the board arranged years ago to accept that letter from program directors in lieu of an actual diploma or transcripts from an institution. That process was initiated to save the students time to apply for the license, which I fully agree with, because it can take 6 to 9 months for somebody to get their transcripts or their diploma. And I don't want to be a roadblock to that, but seeing the results of the lack of competency fulfillment and it being verified on a program director letter, and not just 1 year, but it was 2 years and could be plus even more years, I have to go back and question that policy that that the board created years ago. The other thing that brings up and opens up a little bit of a can of worms that we just initiated was that students were allowed to bypass the clinical exam. And again, that was based on student competencies. So if program directors, and I'm just stating this report for the task site visit, is verifying that their students are competent through a letter from the program director, but our subsequent site visit found that they aren't, does the board now have to consider, you know, its thought about removal of that clinical exam to prove competency? We just enacted it as of January 1st. So I would hate to, you know, have to go back and discuss with the board to rescind that. But, you know, with the discovery that we have, those are just the questions that I have in moving forward, and it can affect all the programs in the state. Because, you know, I have a positive outlook with all the educational programs and have great relationships with many of the program directors. But at the same time, you know, it's something where I have to look out for what's stated in the law for minimum requirements for us to issue the license. And again, it's minimum requirements. So if schools go above and beyond, that's wonderful. But it's just something that I think this committee and potentially the board may have to think about today and possibly in the future. Thank you.
Yes. I want to recognize the work that TAFT has done recently to come into compliance with some of the issues. When I look at the motion, my biggest concern is the competencies and not necessarily the facility. And when we talked previously, BCC and the citation, it was to block, a lot of theirs were facility related. So by removing the citation on that motion, it was to allow the concerns of the facility. My current concerns are not facility related. They're more of the competency of the graduation of the student. I just want to make that point.
Can I comment on that? Mm-hmm. The way that I view it, because I do make the recommendations to the board, is the two kind of go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So the competencies must be fulfilled by adequate facilities. So if one's not appropriate or adequate, you can't have, they have to be in relationship with each other, in my opinion. So, and one other comment that I have is in regards to the decision on, and you were right, we haven't, this is the first time we've had to implement any type of citation and fine. So we're working through this and we will have a firmer structure. However, what I have to consider in recommending to the board on what staff's recommendations are is basically the egregiousness of the incidents. And I think the worst thing that a program can do is to graduate students that haven't fulfilled their minimum competencies. So that's the basis for my recommendation to the committee to consider. And it's, you know, I picked, selected the $1,000 when a maximum that we could potentially find is $5,000 per incident. So I understand that it's an educational program, and I would much rather see potentially that $4,000 difference per year go to improving the school rather than those monies coming to us. So that was my rationale behind the recommendation for the committee. Thank you.
And just as a clarification, there were 5 visits that we made as a body to Taft College, right? So we had to send individuals there to do these site visits
multiple times,
5 times, which costs also, we incur those costs as an oversight. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to put the fine in context. That it is a initial time that we're actually taking action to fine.
Yeah, and I did not, Anthony Lum, Executive Officer again, I did not include costs to initiate site visits into the fine amount. It's something that, committee can look at in the future, but in my opinion, for now, it's something that's part of the cost of doing business.
Are there any other committee member discussions? Seeing none, are there any public comments?
Michelle Hurlbut speaking for myself. I am a little bit worried about the consistency or lack of consistency that the Education Committee is following right now, because you had a previous agenda item where you took away the citation because of concerns regarding funding. You've heard that this agenda item had raised concerns about funding, yet you're still going forward with citations. And I feel like there's not consistency. And I know that we're still kind of growing. I know that we're still trying to figure it out. But I would urge the committee to really consider what you're doing here, because you set a precedence in the previous agenda item, and now you're kind of going against the same precedence for this agenda item. And I just don't think that's fair. Thank you.
This is Sherman. Regarding the fine, I think it's necessary because it's not that it's inconsistent. It's just because we're establishing the procedure, so we might have what you call it, you might call it, it's inconsistent. But if we're starting build up this procedure. And also the second thing is the previous case is because the facility is more related, and this one is even though they are competence and facility go to hand, but this one seems to be more facility, more how you say, more ready. So, and also 2,000 fine is not much. I think we need to set this procedure in place that as we build up the standard for it. So that's my comment.
One way that we do establish a set of standards and rubrics is when we're presented with these issues with campuses, with facilities. So as this is newer to the board to cite and fine, we have to make that determination as we move forward what makes sense to us. I do want to encourage us to continue to work on a rubric and a process to share with the facilities, but this is just to me an opportunity to build that, to learn what we need to know and how we're going to choose to cite.
This is Justin Matthews. I think it's a fair point to call out consistency. I don't feel personally, it's in our best interest to stand in the way of a program of seeking or being awarded funds to improve facilities for their students. So, and yes, given that this is a turning point for the board in taking these different actions, I do appreciate the comment on consistency. Personally, for me, I do think that the fine is still warranted, and I still think a probationary period is warranted. I think that I would be interested to know if the original motion that was put forward, if the person making that motion would be interested in removing just the citation component. But I don't want to stand in the way of a program seeking funding to improve their situation. But I do think that the violations set forth or described here are egregious enough to warrant some fine and increased monitoring via probation.
like to agree with his comment. I do think it's different from Pasadena, and I do understand we need to be consistent, but not completing competencies to be compliant and getting your license, that's different matter. I agree with that.
You agree with his comment to remove the citation? That was his.
My comment was to potentially remove the citation, but to keep the fines and the probation of 3 years in place on the motion.
Yes.
Anthony Lum, Executive Officer again. Thank you for your comments, Dr. Hurlbut. I appreciate it. The thing that I want to stress is, again, this is a new process for us. And thankfully, we haven't had to use these intermediary citation and fine or probation in the past, and I honestly hope not to use them in the future. But at the same time, it's something where staff will put together the rubrics needed to have a structured recommendation for the committee and subsequently the board in the future on this issue. If you look in the materials, you'll see that staff did not have much time to put this together. We just completed the site visit in the middle of February. And here we are in the middle of March, and with all of the materials that go into a board meeting, in addition to running the program, we honestly did not have a lot of time to focus on this. So bringing up that we need a solid rubric, as heard from the committee members, I appreciate that, and staff will do so for between meetings and bring that back for approval.
Thank you. So as the maker of the motion, I'd like to amend the motion to read, I move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board a fine of $2,000, $1,000 for each year of, wait, let me start over, sorry. I move for the Education Committee to recommend to the full board a fine of $2,000, $1,000 each for the years of 2022 and 2023 graduations, and place Taft College Dental Hygiene Education Program on 3 years probation with quarterly updating reporting requirements to ensure compliance of the law. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any committee discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Oh, yes.
Hurlbut again. I'm wondering about the difference between the previous agenda item where you did 2 years and they're out of compliance until 29, and you have 3 years for this agenda item. Doesn't seem consistent to me. You're allowing a school to be out of compliance with the law until 2029 and only 2 years of probation. Yet you're doing 3 years for this one. So I'm just stressing the idea of consistency. Thanks.
Sure. Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. Again, what we mentioned before is that we understand the quote inconsistency that's occurred between the two agenda items. However, for the 2-year probation, if it's warranted, we will bring back potentially a recommendation to extend the probation. But in the meantime, we will be working on the rubrics to have these things in place so that way there's firm decisions on what's occurred. As far as the recommendation for Taft, took into consideration the egregiousness of it, and that's why the additional time frame was put in there for the probation period. So that was the reasoning behind it. Always take that into consideration, just like we do any enforcement case on the egregiousness of the deficiency or whatever was committed.
And if I can add, Pasadena had a facilities issue, and it was reported. And I think this is a different level, a different issue. And this wasn't brought up on a facilities issue. This was more of a competency-based issue. And so I have another public comment.
Dr. Tracy Montez, Executive Officer of the Dental Board. However, I'm going to speak in my former role as Chief of the Division of Programs and Policy Review for the Department of Consumer Affairs, who oversaw the Office of Professional Examination Services and helped with the decision to remove the practical exam. I just want to again echo what has just been said by EO Lum and President Jones. This is a very different matter. This is about graduating students that are not meeting competencies. And one of the reasons why OPS made the recommendation with regard to the practical exam was because your schools were doing an excellent job in teaching these clinical competencies. And so I think, again, I really want to support the difference here between facility versus competencies. And that's really, really significant. And I know it's a hard decision to make, but I think it's an important message because you don't want to have to go back to giving the practical exam. We know it's fraught with standardization issues and just it's not somewhere we want to go back to. So if you can keep your schools and programs strong, you don't have to revisit that. So again, I just wanted to support your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I go ahead and I do want to reiterate as well. Taft graduates are competent. I'll just say that. We found that we had more competencies in our program than other programs. So we were working on being more competent. If students were not meeting all competencies or some competencies, it doesn't mean that they didn't meet any competency. So please understand that. And we have always given what used to be called a mock board in our fourth semester that everybody had to pass in order to graduate. And that continues. It's an exit exam because there is no clinical board exam in California. And all students have passed that. So it's, again, I don't want the board to feel that we are not graduating competent individuals. They are competent. They have met competencies. We've identified that we likely have too many compared to other programs. So we are revisiting that. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. If you've called in, you can press *3 to raise your hand. And I do see we have a Lisa Hutron who's raised her hand. Lisa, you should be able to unmute. There you go. You're unmuted.
Me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Wheatron, and I'm a current student at West LA College. And I just wanted to say between the two comparisons with Pasadena College and with Taft College, I know it's kind of a fine line, but from my viewpoint, having a facility problem where the facility is just outdated compared to not meeting the requirements by the state seems very significantly different. And I feel like it would then affect the future of the dental hygiene career that we have coming forward. I have been in the dental field for over 20 years, and seeing what we have to go through during this program and all the rigorous details that these professors have to create rubric-wise, all the, T's we have to cross and I's we have to dot, clinics we visit, I think it would be doing a big disservice to not make every school fully required to meet everything before their students can continue on and even take the board exam. That's all. Thank you.
All right, this is a moderator. I see no further requests for public comment. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. I will now ask Crystal to call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Crystal Yaman. I will now call roll. Carmen Jones.
Aye.
Carmen King.
Aye.
Michael Long.
Aye.
Justin Matthews.
Aye.
Melanie Lolly Triple Agarwal.
Aye.
The motion has passed.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item number 7, Education G, Dental Hygiene Educational Program Site Visit Updates and Site Visit Schedule. I would ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. The first update is on Pasadena City College, but as we already covered it in a separate item in educational agenda item B, all the reports are included in that section, and currently they're in temporary compliance. Carrington College, Sacramento, on February 12, 2024, there was a limited site visit conducted due to several complaints. Unfortunately, those items are in the addendum, the educational addendum. Those letters are in there. Currently, they're not in compliance. However, the report that was due yesterday was submitted. The remaining item on my report was submitted yesterday. I have not obviously had a chance to review it. So currently they're not in compliance, but they're working towards compliance. So once I review that at the next board meeting, you will be updated on that. Carrington College, San Jose, currently they're not in compliance. That is due to the sterilization room ventilation project, which is currently in process. And building takes time. Building changes take time. So, but they're working towards compliance there. Cypress College, the reports start on page 232. There was a site visit generated due to the CODA self-study review, as well as a change in administration for Cypress. We conducted a site visit on October 12th, 2023, and currently they are in temporary compliance. The full compliance due to hiring issues will be due by September 6th, 2024, so I will not be able to report until the November meeting, unless they come into compliance before that. And Cat College, again, was just reviewed in agenda item F. So all the reports are currently in that section. You can see the current site visit schedule on page 230. And you will see there are a few of them scheduled for Cabrillo, Cerritos. San Jose needs a visit to confirm the expansion ventilation, Carrington, San Jose. And then we're going to determine a full review due to a new program director that will be in 2024. We just have to schedule it with Carrington, Sacramento. Concord Career College, Garden Grove. We are going to see them on December 3rd, 2024. Concord Career College, San Diego. We are going to visit them in 2024. Again, scheduling, we have to work that out. And that is due to a new program director and a follow-up due to the remodel. Pasadena City College, follow-up to be determined as per the board. And that is my report for site visit schedules.
Thank you. Are there any committee member comments? Yes.
I would like to make a comment because in terms of being consistent with all the schools, we need to hold all the schools accountable. And what comes to mind is the Sacramento City College. I know the report was just submitted yesterday and we haven't had a chance to review it, but
Oh, wait, you said a different
I
school.
mean, Sacramento,
Carrington.
sorry.
Just a correction, yeah.
They had a number of violations and they should be put on probation like the other schools. And just for consistency, we need to have all schools be held accountable. So I look forward to Dr. Petty's report on hearing the school.
Thank you. Is there any other committee discussion? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comments?
Thank you. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or simply raise your hand. If you've called in, you can press *3. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item Education H, future agenda items. Are there any committee member recommendations or comments for any future Education Committee agenda items?
I'd like to add that we include Carrington, Sacramento, on the next agenda to see if they're compliant and whether they need to be put on probation or have citation based on the report that Dr. Petty would provide.
Thank you. Any other committee member comments? None. Are there any in-person public comments?
Dr. Vicki Kimbrough, again, Taft College, also speaking on behalf of myself as a program director for 25 years. Based on the elimination of the clinical board exam and the multiple inconsistencies of site visits for educational programs, I would suggest that the board consider adding graduation portfolios for hygiene students. That way, an established rubric can be done for the students, and they can submit their portfolio to ensure that the board feels confident that they're all meeting the competencies set out by their programs. Every program in this country does dental hygiene education differently. We all set different competencies, requirements, and things like that. So if the board wants to hold the programs accountable, then create a rubric for a portfolio so that if you don't feel that some students are competent for licensing, at least maybe that will alleviate the concerns for the differences in the programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
can I ask a question? Or?
To the public member?
Oh, this is the comment. Right? Oh, I was just, I'm thinking how that logistically would work. Who would review these portfolios personally? So
we would definitely need to add staff.
Right. So I think in the current setup, programs are required to construct their programs that are meeting the requirements of California law and CODA. So I think for now, I mean, following those and holding them to those standards is what we are here to do as consumer protection. While I appreciate different programs doing things differently, there is one overarching set of rules that we all have to follow. And so I think at a minimum, those would need to be followed. And if other programs want to do something differently above and beyond that, that is within their purview. But I'm not sure that's our place to then step in and review those graduation products or final products that are not necessarily something that's required by our state. Just a comment.
Thank you for that. Michelle Hurlbut, Program Director, West Coast University. I think what might be helpful versus a portfolio would be to request from each of the programs those competencies and skills that that particular program has in place. And in the and then have us program directors attest in at the end of the time that the student is with us that they have met all of those programs skills and competencies. And that way you have on file what the competencies are. And if there is an issue, then you would have an attestation on my part, and then you would probably hold me responsible as a program director if my program did not meet those competencies and skills that you had on file. I think that would be far easier than having to have you review an academic portfolio.
When I do site visits, and you've had a site visit from me, I request that list, that spreadsheet of all the requirements that are met. That is how CAP was discovered not to have had all the requirements done. So I do, at site visits, check the requirements that they are all complete.
I wonder if maybe the attestation that we send in, because there is no clinical board anymore, maybe the wording of that attestation that we have to send in to say that they've met all the requirements should include clinical competencies and skills. I don't think the wording has that in there now.
So what you're saying is on the letter, have a standard letter complete saying, I, Dr. Michelle Hurlbut, attest to XYZ.
Yep. And then you already have our list of competencies and skills. And by the way, we have 150, just so you know.
Yes.
Hi, Tracy Montez, again, Executive Officer of the Dental Board, this time speaking as the Dental Executive Officer. We actually have a legislative proposal in during our sunset process this year to remove the portfolio exam. We have found that it is not working as it was intended. We basically haven't had any candidates use it since, I think, 2020 or so. It just did not rise to the occasion that we thought it would be. So I would highly discourage any kind of portfolio exam.
Thank you.
Jessica Fagan, Dean of Curriculum for Carrington College, Sacramento. Related to your recommendation to put us, to bring that up as a agenda item in the future, we have been put in compliance with all items requested by the board. There was one outstanding item, and we are working towards becoming in compliance with Dr. Petty and the board. So we are thankful that the board is ensuring that all of our students and our programs are within compliance, and we are grateful for that. And we are working towards making sure that that is a consistency for our program. I think currently we have a better relationship with the board than we have in the past, and we're definitely working towards that. I'm not certain that it's necessary to have that as a discussion since we are in compliance with the exception of one item currently. So.
It's just that Dr. Petty hasn't had a chance to review that. That's why I want to put it on the future board agenda. Thank you.
That makes sense.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or simply raise your hand. Call-in users or call-in attendees may press *3 to raise their hands. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending the Education Committee meeting, which is now adjourned at 11:53. We're going to break for lunch now. Calling the meeting to order at 1:01. And I'd like to ask Nalini Lawley Tribble Argawal to call the roll. This is for the full board, yes. Present.
Anya Pat-Haxton. Present. Sherman King.
Present.
Michael Long.
Present.
Justin Matthews.
Present.
Debbie Pinalco. Present. Lady Lawley Triple Agrawal. Present. Has been established.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda leg reg C. Sorry. A. The Legislation and Regulatory Committee may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except whether to decide to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting.
That's okay.
Okay, sorry, I need to take a step back. We need to convene the meeting of the Legislation and Regulatory Committee with a roll call and establish quorum.
Actually, before we do that, I'd just like to ask Justin and Sherman to step into the public realm if they are not on the committee.
Crystal, if you would please call roll.
This is Crystal Uyama, and I will call the roll. Nalini Lawley Tribble Agrawal. Present. Carmen Doan.
Present.
Sonia Pat Hansen.
Present.
Michael Long.
Present.
Dr. Shridevi Panala.
Present.
A quorum has been established. A simple majority of yes votes are required for any action. Announce quorum.
We'll take it. You'll take it.
Good afternoon. My name is Lady Lawley Tribble Agrawal, and as Legislation and Regulatory Committee Chair, I would like to call the Legislation and Regulatory Committee meeting to order. Let's move to agenda. We will now move on to agenda item Leg Reg, public comments for items not on the agenda. The Legislation and Regulatory Committee may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except whether to decide to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting, Government Code Sections 11125 and 11125.7a. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? BCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. Call-in users may press *3 to raise their hands. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda Reg C, discussion and possible action to approve responses to comments and continue rulemaking to amend California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1105, Faculty to Student Ratio. I would ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Ms. As a reminder for background, staff advised the board at the March 18th full board teleconference meeting that during the February 10th, 2023 meeting of the Commission on Dental Accreditation, also known as CODA, there was discussion concerning increasing the faculty-student ratios for dental hygiene educational programs from 1 to 5 faculty-to-student ratio to 1 to 6 faculty-to-student ratio. The board discussed the faculty-to-student ratio information and received several comments urging the board to develop language to maintain the current faculty-to-student ratio of 1 to 5. And they asked the board to develop that regulation at that time. At that meeting, the board discussed the faculty-to-student ratio. Oops, I apologize. On Friday, March 24, 2023, Executive Officer Anthony Lum requested feedback from California Dental Hygiene Educational Program Directors regarding their faculty's thoughts and opinions about this change and how it would or wouldn't affect the dental hygiene educational programs should there be a code of standards change. Executive Officer Lum received 13 letters from directors and students replying between March 24th, 2023 and April 7th, 2023. All program director letters and student letters were opposed to a change in the faculty-to-student ratio, citing concerns about the competence of graduating students who have not had enough clinical guidance and that a higher faculty-to-student ratio would negatively impact the ability to deliver safe patient care. From June 14th, 2023 until July 1st, 2023, the board received an additional 49 letters from the California Dental Hygienists Association, program directors, faculty, students, and licensees, urging the board to address the faculty-to-student ratio at the next scheduled board meeting, citing consumer and patient safety may be compromised with students having less attention in gaining their foundational knowledge. Additionally, California Dental Hygienists Association stated in their June 20th, 2023 letter, in addition to these concerns, CDHA is currently supporting the DHBC Sunset Review Bill, which includes language to eliminate a clinical exam for California graduates. CDHA's support of this language was based on the exam pass rate statistics for graduates of programs with the current 1 to 5 faculty-to-student ratio. During the board's next full board meeting on July 22nd, 2023, the board was presented with the proposed text to update the regulations regarding faculty-to-student ratios. After much discussion and debate, the board voted to approve the text and delegated the authority to the board's executive officer to make any technical, non-substantive changes as necessary. The regulatory package was prepared by staff, submitted to the Office of Administrative Law, and noticed for the initial 45-day public comment period. During that public comment period, the board received 66 comments. Of the 66 letters, 64 were in support of this proposal and came from a variety of current students, past students, and faculty members. There was one comment that raised general concerns, but stated they were neutral on the proposal, and one additional letter was in favor of the 1 to 6 ratio. What you have before you today are the letters and the responses developed by staff to address those letters that were provided by those faculties, by the faculty, students, and other interested parties. The actual letters are in your board packet, which begins on page 288. But the summary begins on page 254 of the board packet. So staff recommends to the board to consider and approve the responses drafted to address the public comments received during the 45-day comment period on the board's proposed regulations regarding faculty to student ratios, and authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at section 1105 little b 4 as noticed.
Thank you, Dr. Petty. Is there a motion? Please identify yourself and then make the motion.
This is Board Member Long. I move for the Legislation and Regulatory Committee to recommend to the board to approve the responses drafted to address public comments received during the 45-day comment period on the board's proposed regulation regarding faculty to student ratio, and authorize the executive officer to take all necessary steps to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations in CCR section 1105B4 as noted.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. Carmen Dones.
Is there any legislation and regulatory committee member discussion?
I guess I would just like to go on record that I'm in favor of the maintaining the ratio for at 1 to 5.
Are there any in-person public comments?
So I don't know if there's a mic here.
No.
Okay, so I'll just speak loudly.
Thank you.
So Tukazokai from the California Dental Association, so the neutral in the room among 66 letters, wanted to just respectfully urge the Dental Hygiene Board to continue the dialogue about this issue moving forward as you're reviewing the different statements and concerns within CDA's letter have to do with some of the overarching challenges that the ratios aim to address. We asked to look more into opportunities to monitor some changes with graduation rates and to show whether programs are experiencing empty seats versus wait lists, or if it's statewide or regional. So just learning a little bit more about the challenges for retention and how wait lists and ratios are working for the schools now. So we just respectfully ask for there to be an additional review of that as you do this investigation. Thank you.
Are there any WebEx public comments? CCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. If you've called in, you can press *3 to raise your hand. We are displaying instructions, and I see we already have many requests for comment, starting with Andrea Silou. So Andrea, you should be able to unmute yourself. All right. Andrea, you're unmuted.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Hello. Oh.
Andrea, we can hear you. She's unmuted, but looks like her audio is maybe frozen. So Andrea, you might want to log off and log back in. In the meantime, we'll go to the next request for public comment. And that is, oh, it's also from her. She put comment in the comment field. Andrea, we're going to go to the next person. You might want to log in and log back out to reestablish your audio. So we'll go with Diane Lorera. Diane, you should be able to unmute. All right, Diane, we'll try that one more time. Diane, if you see a prompt to unmute yourself, go ahead and click on that. There you go. Diane, you are unmuted.
I am from Cerritos College Dental Hygiene Program, Director Chair. I just want to make a statement. I also wrote a few letters, but just to confirm, I am in favor of the 1 to 5. I'm not sure of how this started or where the intent is to change to 1 to 6. I am thinking if it has to do with the amount of graduates we have, a 1 to 6 would not solve that because we still have the same infrastructure that we can accommodate only 24. At least Cerritos only takes in 24 a year. The climate we have this day and age with the type of students that we have do require a lot more attention. Their learning needs are a little bit more diverse than what we used to know. And I think the landscape of education, and not just hygiene, but across career and technical education, we'll find it is the same. And they do need a little bit more attention, hands-on, acquiring basic skills, and then building on that and building into remediation. So I think that does take a lot of time. And I think for that reason, and to ensure the quality of students that we produce, we should stay to the 1 to 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a comment from Brenda Alvarez. Brenda, you should be able to unmute yourself. All right, Brenda, you are unmuted. Brenda Alvarez, you are unmuted. All right, we seem to have a number of people with audio issues. Let's go on to the next person. We're going to try Andrea Silu once more. Andrea, are you able to unmute yourself?
Hi, is this a better connection?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, hi, thank you. Hello. Let's start again. My name is Andrea Seloy. I am current president of Orange County Dental Hygienists Society, the largest standing component of the California Dental Hygienists Association. On behalf of the members of the OC board, we are against raising the ratio of students to professors. Having graduated hygiene school, I'm in Cerritos in 2019. I remember how time and attention was divided at clinic when there were 4 students to 1 clinical instructor. For each patient, we were allotted about 4 hours to treat them, and within those 4 hours, each student had to check in with professors between every single step, from reviewing medical history and vitals, oral cancer screening, periodontal charting, diagnosing treatment, supervision when providing anesthetic, checking in after scaling and root planing, and then clinical notes. These are 8 tasks, not including competencies that needed to be checked off throughout the semester. Again, 8 tasks a student will need to have one-on-one time with a clinical instructor to make sure the student is cementing in the foundational skills to be a competent hygienist. Moreover, it was the time in between obligatory check-ins that I learned so much from my professors. Tips, advancing my instrumentation skills, and a lengthy discussion about how a pharmaceutical drug was affecting my oral health, the oral health of my patient. What I mentioned was for 1 student. Now multiply that by 5, and how about multiplying that by 6? How many will 1 student have? How will 1 student have enough time to do all of that when 1 clinical instructor is time is so finite? Raising the ratio of professors to 6 students means valuable time is cut away from the generation of hygiene students and an increased probability for students to be overlooked. There is a reason why California has set the standard for dental hygiene in the nation, and allowing this to happen would not only Allowing this to happen will not only risk our future's quality of dental hygiene practice, but the quality of care our patients will be receiving in the future. Thank you.
All right, our next comment is from... Okay, our next comment is from Martin. Martin, you should be able to unmute yourself. All right, Martin, you're unmuted.
Oh, am I muted? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Martin Ambrose. I'm from the Central Valley. I'm a recent graduate. One of the things I definitely oppose of raising the ratio to 1 to 6, and one of the reasons is that we're not taking into acknowledge that it's not just increasing the number of students that we're going to have for 1 licensed individual that has to check all that, but we're also increasing the number of patients that that one licensed individual has to monitor and check. And we have to remember that this is standard of care, and these patients are coming in for their services, and we have to follow the rights. So that's another thing we have to take into consideration is the number of treatments that that one licensed instructor has to work around those other students. And so I think by increasing, we're limiting the amount that the treatments and the professional care that those patients are going to have. Are you back?
All right, the next request for comment is from Lisa Wheatron. And Lisa, you should see a prompt to unmute yourself. Okay, you're unmuted.
Hi, I am Lisa Wheatron from West Los Angeles College, and I also I wrote a letter in, and I am hoping that the ratio stays 1:5. As a current student, it is difficult enough when we are inside clinic to be able to have the instructors spread as thin as they are to help each of us with all of our questions without feeling like we're being rushed through and feeling like we're taking away time from other students when we do have a question that, you know, they may have a patient, but we have a question. And so, you know, the professors are running in between us. Ultimately, I really wish that it could be 1:4, but I know that that's not something that is it's not something up for grabs. But moving it to 1:6, I think would be a really great disservice, like the last person said, to not only the staff, the students, but also our patients. Thank you.
All right, the next request for comment is from Janae Zapia. And Janae, you should see a prompt to unmute yourself. There you go, you're unmuted.
All right, good afternoon. So my name is Janae Zapia. I am a graduate of class of 2023. And I do believe this motion also just takes away from the students. I think it also kind of takes away from our faculty. This is where we're learning our fundamentals. A lot of the requirements are already very difficult with the current 1:5 ratio. I watched myself struggle, and I watched like my fellow classmates struggle with kind of the ratio we're at now. So I really just don't think this motion would support producing high quality dental hygienists, in my opinion. And I think our top priority is to keep competent RDHs as kind of like the topic of what we talked about all day long, and keeping these requirements sharp and keeping all of us kind of, you know, that commitment to excellence. So I do not believe in this, and I do think it takes away. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. I see no further requests for comment. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you. Oh, I'm sorry, someone, I'm so sorry, but someone just put their hand up. Shall we take them? Yeah. Okay, Tiffany Musquata. Tiffany, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go. Tiffany, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Tiffany Mosqueda. I am the Orange County Dental Hygiene Society trustee. And I just want to make a comment, and I know I said before, but that decision, you know, to remove the live board exam was based on the 1:5 ratio. So I do agree that, you know, changing it to the 1:6, it can really affect, you know, the skills of the students that were, you know, graduating from these schools. And then another comment I wanted to make was like a personal experience. So I graduated in 2014. And when I was in school, I remember having multiple patients who only needed nitrous oxide just for the delivering local anesthesia. They didn't want it for their actual scaling portion of their visit. And the most frustrating thing for me was it would take so long for the professor to come back to me for me to be able to remove the nitrous and put the patient on oxygen, because they were, you know, having to do the checkoffs for my classmates. And then by the time I got the nitrous off, they couldn't come back to me for me to take the oxygen off until my entire appointment was over because they were still going around for all my other classmates in my rotation. And so I feel like with this, it's, you know, like already with the ratio that we have now, it's already like pushing it for, you know, being able to treat these patients for their health. Like I feel like it's a waste of dental materials with using the nitrous oxide in my situation, and also not in the patient's best interest as well. But that's just an example. And, you know, I feel like if we increase this ratio, there's going to be many more things that come up that may not be in the patient's best interest. And I think that's really important to take into.
15 seconds.
Oh, that's it.
Okay. All right. Madam Chair, I see no further requests for comment. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. I will now ask Crystal to call the roll and report votes for this agenda item.
This is Crystal Young, and I will call the roll. Melanie Lally Chubul Agarwal. Aye. Armin Doan.
Abstain.
Sonia Pat Hansen.
Abstain.
Michael Wong.
Aye.
Debbie Panala.
Says aye.
The motion has passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item Let's Reg regulatory update, status of Dental Hygiene Board of California regulatory packages, informational only. I will ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you. So if you will look on page 401 of your board meeting packet, you will notice, especially on page 402, since the last time the board met, section 1114 has been approved. We had to modify the text at the board meeting in November, and we had to resubmit the package, and luckily it was approved on January 17th, 2024, and it was approved to take effect, I apologize, for 1 of 2024. Section 1116 and 1116.5 went through the 45-day comment period, and the period just ended right before the board meeting. It ended Tuesday, so unfortunately it would not be ready for this board meeting. So we will have the results of the 45-day comment period at your July meeting. And as we saw already today, 1105B4, that one went through the comment period. It ended on 2/27/2024, and you reviewed the comments already. We had on page 403, we had sections 1073.1, 1073.3, and 1082. Those were regulations regarding dental hygienists that were still under the boards of California, the Dental Board of California's purview. We were trying to move those over from the Dental Board to the Dental Hygiene Board. However, OAL wants us to go through a regular rulemaking process for that. So we will be seeking to move those sections over from the Dental Board's purview to the Dental Hygiene Board's purview. Also on page 403, you will see the processing times of how long it takes for OAL or for the rulemaking process to go through. Usually it takes about 2 years to have a regulation package to go through the entire process. So it's just a little snapshot of what happens with the processing time. Yes, sir.
I have a question regarding 1116 and 1116.5, the mobile dental hygiene clinic.
Yes, sir.
You said that the comment time, the 45-day comment period is closed.
Yes, it ended, I want to say Tuesday.
Okay.
And so it didn't have time to make it into this packet because we would have to review everything. We'd have to write the responses to the letters that were received. There was one letter received, and I have to draft the responses for the board to review. And unfortunately, the timing did not make it into the board packet this time, but it will make it in for July.
Is there anything I can help you with in regards to reviewing the letters? Okay. It's because,
yeah, you're an RDHAP.
Right, as an AP, the mobile clinic is something that I'd like to pay a little closer attention to. So, okay.
I mean, I don't think Officer Lum would have to.
I have no problem. Any assistance we can obtain, beautiful.
Thank you. Are there any in-person public comments?
Actually, I did want to just say one thing. I want to thank Elizabeth as well. Elizabeth is up here, Elizabeth Leeds Olson. She's our regulatory attorney. She's been wonderful at helping us through this process, so thank you.
We could not do it without her. She is instrumental in all our packages, and I really appreciate everything you do for us. She's nice. Easy to work with.
Are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. I will give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item /Reg E, Bill of Interest and Legislative Calendar. I would ask Dr. Dina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you. So if you will look on page 404 of the board meeting materials, the actual language to the bills can be found on page 411. So if you're interested in the full legislative write-up of the bills, they are starting on page 411. A little bit of a change in 2023, so legislation that's already been passed, and it was brought up yesterday during the strategic plan. AB 936 from Wood allowed dental students to perform patient care in specified events. And I think, and Officer Lum also thinks that we think it would be a good thing to seek legislation in order to have this apply to hygiene. So the actual bill is in the, starting on page 411. So the language is there if you want to review it. And we think that that might be something that the legislative committee would like to consider. We have AB 1891. Oh, another preface. A lot of these bills you will see as a watch position. That is because it's very early in the legislative period. What happens is there's a lot of changes to language. Some bills die, some have major language changes. So most of these we recommend a watch position currently just because of that change. But if the board, any of these suggestions, the board can have their own determination, or the committee and have their own determination. So AB 1891, community colleges, allied health programs. This bill would authorize a community college allied health problem if, after using an approved diagnostic assessment tool, it determines the number of applicants to the program exceeds its capacity, to use additional multi-criteria screening measures. It would authorize the community college that determines the applicants who exceed the capacity to administer a multi-criteria screening process, a random selection process, or a blended combination of random selection and multi-criteria screening process. Currently, we're recommending the watch position. Dentistry, dental assistants. This bill would revise the responsibilities of the supervising dentist related to an unlicensed dental assistant and the functions and duties that our unlicensed dental assistant is authorized to perform. It would revise the course requirements for the unlicensed dental assistant, including requiring verification that the dental assistant has completed specific preceptorship and work experience requirements by an affidavit signed under penalty of perjury by the supervising dentist. It would also require an unlicensed dental assistant to obtain a certificate of completion of radiation safety to perform radiographic procedures. Again, we recommend a watch position. Board members, qualifications, public members. This bill would prohibit a public member or a lay member of any board from having a specified relationship with the licensee of that board for services provided pursuant to that license within 3 years of the public member's or lay member's appointment. This bill would provide that these requirements apply to a public member or a lay member of a board upon appointment or reappointment on or after January 1st, 2025. This one we are recommending opposed, as board members may want to obtain hygiene or dental services from another board member. AB 2701, Medi-Cal dental cleanings and examinations. This bill would restructure current law so that 2 cleanings and 2 examinations per year, as specified, would be covered by Medi-Cal, benefits for all beneficiaries, regardless of age. Watch position. AB 2862, licensees, African American applicants. This bill would require, notwithstanding any other law, that a board within the department prioritize African American applicants seeking licensure, especially applicants who are descended from a person enslaved in the United States. Watch position. AB 2920, dentistry, dental schools. This bill would authorize a national accrediting body approved by the board to approve dental colleges for the purpose of board prescribed examination eligibility requirements. This bill would authorize the board to approve dental colleges for purposes of board prescribed license eligibility requirements. Prior law until January 1st, 2024 had required for approval or renewal of approval a foreign dental school to make applications to the board and meet other specified requirements. That prior law imposed duties and powers on the board related to the evaluation of those applications and the periodic survey and evaluation of all approved foreign dental schools to ensure continued compliance with the requirements for approval. This bill, with certain exceptions, would reenact those provisions. The board chooses to take or staff recommends a watch position. AB 3127, reporting of crimes, mandated reporters. This bill would remove the requirement that a health practitioner make a report to law enforcement when they suspect a patient has suffered physical injury caused by an assaultive or abusive conduct. This bill would instead require that a health practitioner make a report when the injury is life-threatening or results in death, or as the result of child abuse or elder or dependent adult abuse. The staff is recommending a watch position. AB 3175, healthcare coverage, dental services. Existing law, the Knox-Keene Healthcare Service Plan Act of 1975 provides for the licensure and regulation of healthcare service plans by the Department of Managed Healthcare and makes a willful violation of the Act's requirement of crime. This existing law imposes specified coverage and disclosure requirements on healthcare service plans. Existing law on and after January 1st, 2025 prohibits a healthcare service plan from issuing, amending, renewing, or offering a plan contract that imposes a dental waiting period provision in a large group plan or pre-existing condition provision for any plan. This bill would make technical, non-substantive changes to those provisions. So the board staff is recommending a watch position. SB 1067, Healing Arts Expedited Licensure Process, Medically Underserved Area of Population. This bill would require each Healing Arts Board to develop a process to expedite the licensure process by giving priority review status to the application of an applicant for a license who demonstrates that they intend to practice in a medically underserved area or serve a medically underserved population. Staff recommends a watch position. SB 1369, dental providers, fee-based payment. This bill would require a healthcare service plan, contract, or health insurance policy as defined, issued, amended, or renewed on or after January 1st that provides payment directly or through a contracted vendor to a dental provider to have a non-fee-based default method of payment as specified. This bill would also require a dental provider to submit signed authorization to the healthcare service plan, opting into a fee-based payment method system. The staff recommends a watch position. SB 1385, Professions and Vocations. Existing law provides for the licensure and regulation of various professions and vocations by boards within the Department of Consumer Affairs. Existing law requires that any board within the department that was required to submit reports to the governor prior to 1967 under any provision of the Business and Professions Code is not required to submit those reports. This bill would repeal the above provision. Staff recommends a watch position. SB 1451, Professions and Vocation. This bill would authorize a registered dental hygienist in alternative practice with an existing practice in the dental health professional shortage area to continue to provide dental hygiene services if certification by the department is removed. The board staff recommends a support position. And finally, SB 1453, Dentistry Board Meetings. Existing law requires the licensure of dentists by the Dental Board of California and requires one meeting each year in the San Francisco Bay Area and one in each year in Southern California and other times, places as the board may designate. The bill would repeal those requirements. So board staff is recommending watch. Additionally, under that, you will see the upcoming legislative calendar highlights. So you see March 21st, the legislature adjourns for spring recess, and then the other days, such as, I apologize, August 5th, the legislature reconvenes from summer recess and continuing on the calendar. Any questions? Yes.
No question. Sorry. On the written material on AB 2269, it's listed as a watch, but on the online it says opposed.
Oh, I was going to comment on that.
Yeah.
You're looking at the outline as opposed to the meeting materials. But what I was going to bring up in discussion was that staff actually changes after review of the bill a little more in-depthly. Staff would like to change the position on that from an opposed to a watch. This section actually addresses existing law, and it pertains to public board members. The existing law has it that, say, a public board member can't ask for services from a licensee member for 5 years. And what this bill is actually doing is reducing that down to 3 years. So I would like to request to revise the recommendation on that to a watch position instead of an opposed.
I apologize. I didn't change that on my.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry about that.
And did we need a motion to discuss this? Or?
Oh, we will.
Oh, okay.
It's just comments right now. Yeah, we'll get a motion first.
I apologize for that.
That's it. Okay.
Is there a motion? Please identify yourself and then make a motion.
Carmen Jones, I move for the Legislation and Regulatory Committee to recommend to the full board with the modification on the one to watch to approve the proposed positions as follows. And they're listed here.
And it's listed in the meeting materials.
Yeah, it's in the meeting. I apologize, it was my oversight.
No worries.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any Legislation and Regulatory Committee member discussion?
I do, please, long. On AB 2701, Medi-Cal dental cleanings and examinations, I would like the committee to consider supporting this versus watch. Reinstating the access to care.
He says AB 2701.
And this is Carmen Jones. I would like us to consider to also support the AB 1891 with the Community College Allied Health Program. The multi-criteria processing.
I had a question about the AB 936. You said it was approved for the dental schools. So how do we get it added to dental hygiene program?
We have to ask the legislature to grant us that. So the board would have to find a legislator to carry that bill.
We would basically need to seek legislation. This, if we wanted to, once we see the final language and everything, if the Dental Hygiene Board wanted to mimic that language, and we would just need to find an author to create a new bill for us. We have other statutory issues that we want to address, and so we'll be seeking that in the near future.
Thank you. Is there any in-person publication?
Just a question regarding AB 1891. Does the board know, or can you share what the current criteria is when you go over your allotted? How do you determine?
All community colleges, I'll answer that if that's okay.
Yeah.
All community colleges are on a lottery for a lot of the programs. So you really can't use any criteria to accept students into those programs. But this is saying once that you get to a capacity, you can then start to use criteria to accept students. And it'll help with student success at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Are there any in-person public comments?
Yes, the California Dental Hygienists Association strongly supports AB 2701, requiring the Medi-Cal dental program to provide 2 cleanings and examinations per year for their beneficiaries, and would appreciate the support of the Dental Hygiene Board.
Which bill did you want?
27.
Thank you.
Hello. Chuka Zokai from the California Dental Association. CDA also recommends a support position on AB 2701. Over half of all states cover 2 adult dental cleanings and prevention visits a year, and California does not currently offer this basic preventive benefit in Medi-Cal for adults. So unfortunately, the prevalence of dental disease and tooth loss is disproportionately high among individuals who have lower incomes, and individuals eligible for Medi-Cal are likely to be most in need of additional preventive visits, and this would impact dental hygienist practices as well. I also wanted to speak on SB 1451. CDA does oppose SB 1451 and would like to make a few clarifications about DIPSA designations. DIPSA designations have never been removed in California and have in fact increased over the past 5 years, creating additional regions for RDHAP practices. And this issue has been brought forward 5 times over the past 12 years and was a legislative proposal in the 2023 Dental Hygiene Board Sunset Bill or Sunset Report that the legislator continued to not include in legislation. DPSA designations are based on the presence of dentists, not other types of dental providers. So any increase in RDHAPs in an area would not jeopardize the DPSA designation. Finally, I would like to speak in support of AB 1891. CDA also does recommend that the board change their position from watch to support. Community college allied health programs, such as dental hygiene programs, continue to be one of the most financially accessible pathways into the profession for students. And this bill would create a more dynamic and inclusive admission process. So evaluating candidates more holistically creates a more equitable admissions process and diverse health workforce in California. Thank you.
Is there any WebEx public comment? CCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen or simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
I have a question for the committee. Do you want to change AB 1891 from a watch to support? The same for AB 2701 from a watch to support. Yes.
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 Okay. Thank you. I will now ask Crystal to call the roll and record rules for this agenda item.
This is Crystal Young, and I will call the roll. Delaney Lolly Triple Agarwal.
Aye.
Carmen Jones.
Aye.
Sonia Pat Hansen.
Aye.
Michael Wong.
Aye.
Debbie Pinala.
Aye.
The motion has passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda items less read, future agenda items. Okay. Are there any committee member recommendations for comments for future legislation and legislation committee agenda items?
Yes, I would like us to add the, now I turn the page, sorry. The legislation to add the dental hygiene to, or to seek legislation for AB 936, similar, yeah.
Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any WebEx public comments? CCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Thank you. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen or simply raise your hand. Call-in users may press *3 to raise their hands. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you all for attending the Legislation and Regulatory Committee meeting. We will now adjourn at 1:55 p.m.